Chapter 275. The prelude at the beginning was very passionate. It was obviously not the same style as I Came Across the Ocean to See You and Strangers. However, this kind of brisk melody immediately lifted the spirits of the audience. The distinct beat always made people unable to help but gently twist their bodies and sway along with it. Holding the microphone, Murphy stood in the middle of the stage without swaying. It seemed that she was somewhat out of tune with the rhythm of the background, but this was also her unique style. No matter what song she sang, she just stood quietly and waited for the prelude to end. It was not unreasonable for some comments to say that her performance on stage was poor, but Mo Fei just didn't like to do too many fancy things. She only wanted to use her own singing to impress the audience. If pride was not coldly smashed by the reality of the sea, how would I know how hard I have to work to go far? Murphy's voice was still clear and pleasant, but compared to the original Fan, she sang this part of the song with a trace of sadness. This kind of sadness was very faint, but as long as you listened carefully, you could feel it. The audience at the side of the stage listened carefully. Thinking of Murphy's bumpy road to pursue her dreams in music, and the scene of her pride being defeated by reality, they could not help but sigh in their hearts. If the dream didn't fall off the cliff, how would I know that the persistent people have invisible wings? However, Mo Fei didn't let sadness become the main melody of her song. In her cool and clear voice, there was a stubbornness. Luo Xin, who was listening to Murphy's performance in an inconspicuous corner below the stage, smiled slightly and swayed her body gently. She actually preferred songs like Coming Across the Sea to See You, but she did not reject the inspirational song Murphy was singing now. On the stage, Murphy paused and suddenly changed the rhythm. When depressed, you will obviously feel the weight of loneliness. How much you yearn for someone to give you some warmth, to lend you a shoulder. The very long lyrics were sung in one breath. Not only did Murphy not gasp for breath, but she also used some small skills in the details of the stress. The helplessness expressed in this part of the song penetrated into people's hearts through the singing. It was like a strand of black hair entangling people. The cruelty of reality was suffocating. However, the beautiful thing was that Murphy's singing gave them hope in this hopeless situation. The original dream is held tightly in my hands, the place I want to go the most. How can I turn back halfway? The original dream will definitely be reached. Only when I realize my true desire can I be considered to have reached heaven. Mo Fei's voice became high-pitched. In her wide vocal range, no matter how high-pitched her voice was, it was still very easy. Unknowingly, Murphy had already hidden her helplessness. What she displayed to the audience was the stubbornness that came from the bottom of her heart and the joy of her success. It turned out that chasing one's dreams wasn't all about pain. It could also be filled with hope and happiness. At the end of the song, the applause from the audience wasn't particularly enthusiastic, but the smiles on their faces were for Murphy. It's a very nice song, full of positive energy. We are very grateful to Mo Fei for bringing us the first dream. I also hope that all of our audience can persevere on the path of our dreams. I believe that our dreams will eventually be reached. Let's give Murphy another round of applause, shall we? Luo Xin stepped forward to help Murphy stir up the emotions of the audience. The audience was very cooperative. They laughed and clapped. The applause that rang out once again was like thunder that echoed throughout the studio. Luo Xin pulled Murphy, who had just finished thanking the audience, to sit down. She smiled and said, "Without a doubt, this is a very good song. But I have to say, compared to Coming Across the Ocean to See You, it is still slightly inferior in terms of resonating with the audience. Here, I have a small question. From what I know, Murphy, your latest album will use First Dream as the title track of the same name." Luo Xin suddenly revealed such a big piece of news, causing the audience to gasp in surprise. That's right, according to the information I received, Murphy's new album is called First Dream. Murphy's fans, you should thank me for digging up such a big piece of news for you. Luo Xin smiled and winked at the camera. Back to the question I wanted to ask, why did you choose First Dream as the title track, Murphy? And why did you name your album with this title? Luo Xin asked. Of course, I'm not saying that First Dream is not good, but in comparison, I might like Coming Across the Ocean to See You more. Although both songs are very good, because the emotions expressed by the latter are more moving, there should be a difference in the classic level. Sister Luo Xian is right. When I decided to use First Dream as the title track, my producer, Mr. Jin Ing Ming, also raised an objection. Murphy said, in fact, whether it is First Dream or Coming Across the Ocean to See You, they are not the best songs in my album. Or should I say, the 12 songs that Mr. Mu Xiang gave me are actually very good, and each song has the potential to be a title track. Oh, this is a very surprising revelation, but your fans should be very excited. Luo Xian smiled in surprise. 12 songs at the level of a title track. I think this will be a very classic album. Murphy nodded gently and then said, although First Dream received a slightly worse evaluation from my producer than other songs, I still like this song very much, because it wrote about my experience over the years, and now that I have encountered failure in my comeback, it gave me strength at the most difficult time, and let me find the faith to persevere again. So I want to use this song, which is very important to me, to name my new album. I want to tell my friends who like to listen to my singing, and at the same time tell myself that my original music dream has not changed. No matter how many failures I encounter, I will persist in making my own music, and make the best music for everyone. Murphy's cold and elegant face faintly revealed an indescribable determination. At this moment, she looked very handsome in the camera. Very well said. Luo Xian clapped. I also like Murphy's simple persistence in persevering in her music dream, and I look forward to you showing us more and better music in the future. Thank you, Sister Luo Xian. Murphy thought that this was the end. However, Murphy could never understand Luo Xian's tricks, so she suddenly pretended to be wronged. But I still don't understand, why the future? Why don't you show us better music today in the Jixin interview? How good would it be if you didn't sing First Dream, and sang a more exciting song than Crossing the Ocean to See You? Sigh, Sister Luo Xian, my ratings are going to drop again. Ha. Murphy was a little dumbfounded, and she felt a little guilty. Haha. Luo Xian's grievance was swept away, and she laughed proudly. Okay, I won't tease you anymore. Our Mo Fei was actually quite innocent. Seeing her nervous look, I couldn't bear to see her like this. Singing First Dream is actually quite good, it's very suitable for today, and I sincerely hope that everyone can find their original dreams in this song, and find the power to pursue their dreams. Luo Xian made a hand gesture, and then hugged Murphy dotingly in her arms like a mother hugging her daughter. Lastly, I would like to thank Murphy again for coming today, for sharing so many unknown stories with us, and for bringing us such a good new song. Sister Luo Xian wishes Murphy all the best, and that your new album will sell well. I hope that when the time comes, I will be able to invite you again. Luo Xian held onto Murphy's hand as she spoke to the camera. If there's a chance, I will definitely come again. Thank you, Sister Luo Xian, and thank you everyone. Murphy bowed slightly. Okay, our show will end here for today. Thank you to everyone who came and watched in front of the TV, and thank you to the sponsors of this show. See you again next time, bye. Chapter 276. Yongxi's father, please wait a moment. This morning, Yang Yi sent Shi to kindergarten. Just as he was about to leave, Mr. Mu chased after him. Seeing Mr. Mu chasing after him, Yang Yi was shocked. He thought that something had happened to his daughter. Yongxi's father, it's like this. We are going to have a parent-teacher conference this Saturday afternoon. I saw you and wanted to inform you. Mr. Mu smiled. Parent-teacher conference? Is it because she did something wrong? Yang Yi, who never knew what a parent-teacher conference was, asked nervously. Mr. Mu was stunned for a moment, then he laughed and said, No, Yongxi's father, you misunderstood. Your daughter's performance is still very good. Our parent-teacher conference this time is mainly to gather the parents together to report the situation of the children this semester and also to talk about the party that will be held in kindergarten on New Year's Day. Yang Yi was relieved. He nodded and said, "Okay, I'll bring Shishi over on Saturday afternoon." No, Shishi doesn't have to come. It's rare to have a weekend, let her play at home." Mr. Mu smiled and said, "This parent-teacher conference is mainly held for the parents." Yang Yi looked at Mr. Mu with some surprise. He didn't bring Shishi over? Then who would look after this little girl at home? Although Murphy came back from Shanghai today and Yang Yi was going to pick her up, according to the situation in the past few weeks, Murphy would probably continue to work overtime on the weekend to shoot the MV. "Okay, I understand. Thank you, Mr. Mu." Yang Yi nodded at the other party and didn't say much. He would go back and think of a way. In a closed classroom next to the film club's headquarters, Du Yuanlei was sitting in a chair with a boy from the photography department who was going to be the cameraman for her movie. They were watching Guazi and Qin when acting together. Yes, the female lead of this movie was this year's star freshman, Qin Wen. She didn't know how Du Yuanlei had the ability to invite her. "Su Sheshe, you should leave. We are not suitable for each other. Don't waste your time on me." Guazi's face was firm, but his clenched fists and trembling lips exposed the pain in his heart. The skinny Qin Wen took a step forward and hugged Guazi's arm. She had already acted in countless works and her acting skills were very good. With tears in her eyes, she said sadly, "No, Guang, I don't want to go. I know that you are sick, but don't give up. Don't give up on yourself, okay?" If it was someone else, they would have been suppressed by Qin Wen's acting skills. However, the person who came up was Guazi, the little fatty with amazing talent. When he saw Qin Wen crying, he secretly thought of some painful things in his heart. For example, he was rejected by Du Yuanlei on the night of his confession. "No, I don't love you anymore because you're annoying, you know. I hate you very much. You eat so little and you never lose weight. You even force me to lose weight every day. I don't want a girlfriend like you." Guazi turned his head fiercely. With his back facing Qin Wen, he faced Du Yuanlei and the others. The cameraman next to them was amused by Guazi's line and laughed out loud. Du Yuanlei frowned and turned her head to look at him coldly. He quickly covered his mouth and shrank his head in fear. Du Yuanlei continued to look at Guazi. Then, she was shocked by his opened eyes and 2 lines of tears fell down. Guazi, of course, wasn't looking at her. He looked into the void as if Du Yuanlei and the cameraman didn't exist in front of him. His eyes were filled with sadness. "No, it's not like this, Guang. I know that your heart hurts. You love me." Qin Wen cried sadly behind Guazi. "Let me face it with you, okay? No matter what, I believe that there is still hope. Why are you so annoying?" Guazi shook off Qin Wen's hand and shouted at her. "I said, don't bother me anymore. Get lost." After that, Guazi turned his head and walked away. However, Qin Wen followed him for 2 steps and accidentally tripped on the ground. Ouch. Guazi, who had a heartless expression, heard the sound, but he still couldn't bear it. He patted his head angrily, turned around and ran back. Sheshe, what's wrong with you?" "Guang, I know that you love me. Don't go, okay?" Qin Wen didn't mind at all. She hugged Guazi's neck tightly and cried with snot and tears running down her face. It was the first time that Guazi had such close contact with a girl. His body stiffened, but he quickly reacted. He pulled Qin Wen's hand and said angrily, "Why are you so stupid? Where did you fall? Let me see." "Okay." Du Yuanlei, who was next to him, clapped her hands, stood up and said, "Let's stop here." Guazi quickly stood up and pulled Qin Wen like a gentleman. He wiped his tears and asked nervously, "Senior Du, what do you think?" Du Yuanlei looked at Guazi's face and said slowly, "To be honest, I didn't have much hope for you. However, I didn't expect that you would give me such a big surprise today. You acted very well. You really acted like what you said yesterday. I misunderstood you. I apologize for what I said yesterday. It was too much. I'm sorry." Although Du Yuanlei had a straight face, which was a habit of being a director, her tone was still very sincere. It's okay, it's okay. I'm broad-minded and fat, so I don't care. Guazi said happily. Well, you acted very well, so I decided to give this role to you. Wang Chao, give him a copy of the script. Du Yuanlei said. Thank you, Senior Du. Guazi was very excited. When he took the script from the boy who was still smiling at him, his hands were still trembling. However, he didn't forget to be polite. Thank you, Brother Chao. Guazi, you acted very well. It was very interesting to act with you. At this moment, Qin Wan, who had wiped her tears, walked up and patted Guazi's shoulder. She shook her fist at him and said, Good luck. I believe that your dream will come true. When Guazi was stunned, she blinked her eyes and said with a smile, Why? I know that you and I almost became classmates. I saw the video of you being interviewed. Guazi quickly nodded and said with a smile, Thank you, Sister Qin Wan, for your encouragement. Please give me more advice. You have a lot of experience in acting. Haha, since you called me Sister Qin Wan, then Sister Qin Wan will definitely protect you. Qin Wan patted Guazi's shoulder again. At night, after kindergarten ended, Ms. Mu, who was also Mu Yuyen, returned home and prepared to cook dinner. Honey, I brought our son back. Her husband also brought their son, who was in elementary school, home. However, after going to elementary school, their son was no longer clingy. The moment he came back, he threw his school bag and went straight to the TV. Honey, guess what I bought? The kitchen door was pushed open. Her husband poked his head in and said with a smile. Although they had been married for a long time, because they had a child late and Mu Yuyan's attitude had always been good, their relationship was still as strong as when they were young. I don't have time to guess. Hurry up and tell me what it is. Mu Yuyan said angrily. Help me choose the dishes while you're at it. No problem. Her husband came in. As he agreed, he shook the bag in his hand and said, Look, I bought 2 fairy tale books, Shishi's bedtime stories. 2. They're exactly the same? Why did you buy 2? Can't you just buy 1 for your son? Mu Yuyan asked in confusion. Hey, you don't know how popular this book is now. I even asked my colleague to buy it for me online. Her husband took out the book as if he was presenting a treasure and said proudly, I heard that this book is suitable for all ages. I've read it at work and it's really good. So I bought 1 for my son and 1 for you. Don't you often tell stories to the children in kindergarten? The stories here are enough for you to tell for many days. Is it that good? Mu Yuyan was skeptical. Then I'll read it later. Hurry up and put down the book and help me choose the dishes. Yes, sir. Chapter 277. During the day, Yang Yi originally went to pick up Murphy, but on the way home, Murphy received a notice from the company that she needed to go back in the afternoon to take a few endorsement photos for the clothing sponsor. Yang Yi had no choice but to turn around and send Murphy back to the company. But at noon, the two of them still went for a romantic Western meal. However, what they didn't expect was that taking a few photos was quite troublesome. When Murphy returned home in the evening, it was already past 9 o'clock. Mom, you're back. Hearing the sound of movement, the little girl, who had already taken a bath and was wearing pajamas, quickly slipped out of bed and ran out, excitedly hugging her mother's leg. Because Murphy was on a business trip, she hadn't seen her mother for several days. Now, the little girl, who was used to sleeping with her mother every day, had been nagging for several nights. Tonight, she had been staring at the staircase, unable to see her mother coming back. She had almost become a stone waiting for her mother. Did you miss Mom? Murphy looked tired. She touched the little girl's head and asked, feeling gratified. Of course. I miss you every day. The little girl jumped up and said coquettishly, Mom, I want a hug. Your mother is too tired today. Her waist hurts a little. Let her rest for a while. Yang Yi walked over with a glass of milk. He even used chopsticks to stir the milk powder inside and said reproachfully, It's okay. Come here. Murphy put down her bag and sat on the sofa with a smile. She didn't care if her high-end dress would be wrinkled or not. Then, she pulled Shi up and hugged her in her arms. The mother and daughter pair started to talk intimately. "Mom, does your waist hurt? Why doesn't Shi's waist hurt?" The little girl sat on her mother's lap. She turned her head and pressed her slender waist as she asked puzzledly. "Pfft, how old are you? It's just a little bit long, where's the waist?" Mo Fei was amused by the little girl's cute appearance. She stretched out her finger and scratched the bridge of her nose, and said with a smile, "Mama has been standing for too long today, and she is too tired, so her waist can't stand it anymore." "Does it hurt a lot?" She frowned as she listened to her mother's words. She held her mother's hand and asked worriedly. "Well, it hurts a little, but with Shi's concern, Mom feels much better," Murphy said softly. Yang Yi made the milk and walked over with a smile. "It's fine. I guess it's an old injury. I'll give you a massage later. I guarantee that you'll feel comfortable when you wake up tomorrow." "What nonsense are you talking about?" Murphy blushed. She reached out to cover Shi's ears and said reproachfully, Shi is still here." "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about giving you a real massage, not something else." "What are you thinking?" Yang Yi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I can't hear you." She shook her head and broke free from her mom's hand. She pouted and unhappily said, "Papa, Mom, what are you talking about?" "Papa said to let you drink milk and then go to bed." Murphy pointed at the time. "It's already 9 o'clock. The little girl usually went to bed from 9:30 to 10 o'clock, but before going to bed, she wanted to listen to a story for a while." "Okay then." She didn't stick to her mother. She obediently came down, held the cup, and gulped down the milk. Drinking a cup of milk before going to bed can not only replenish the nutrition, but also help her sleep more soundly. "I'll make you a cup of milk later, and then you can take a bath after drinking it." Yang Yi looked at Murphy, who was lazily curled up on the sofa, and said softly with some heartache, "Okay." Murphy turned over and lay on the sofa, revealing a beautiful arc. She rubbed her waist, then tried to raise her head and pitifully asked Yang Yi for comfort. "It really hurts." She was drinking milk at the side, but her big eyes were still open, looking at her father and mother's body. At this moment, she stopped. While licking the milk on her lips with her small tongue, she handed over the remaining half of the glass of milk. "Mama, do you want me to share it with you?" Murphy, who was acting coquettishly with Yang Yi, was stunned for a moment. She turned her head to look at her daughter. The little girl's mouth was still moist, but she was very serious when she handed the milk to her. Murphy was touched and gratified. She turned over and sat up, rubbed Shi's little head, and said, "Thank you, Shi. Mom is very happy that you can share it with Mom. But your papa said that he would make milk for Mom later, so Shi should finish this cup of milk. Mom appreciates his kindness." "Okay then." I'll drink it." The little girl smiled sweetly and said crisply. In fact, She didn't think that her actions were very filial and excellent. She just felt that sharing with her mother was a matter of course. In the evening, after she fell asleep, Yang Yi pulled Murphy into his bedroom. "On the bed, lie down face down," Yang Yi said, and he took out a bottle of olive oil. Murphy blushed and said angrily, "What are you doing? I'm so tired, and you still want to torment me. What are you thinking?" Yang Yi was stunned for a moment, and then smiled helplessly. "Didn't I say that I would give you a massage?" "Who said that?" Murphy realized that she seemed to have misunderstood. She stuck out her tongue and said, "Are you really not going to do anything bad?" "Of course, you're so tired today, and I feel sorry for you. What bad things can I do with you?" Murphy didn't know how many times she was moved tonight. She stepped forward, hugged Yang Yi's waist, and put her head on Yang Yi's chest. "You bastard, why do you always say things that move me?" Yang Yi patted Murphy's head gently, kissed her forehead, and said softly, "Okay, don't be moved. Lie down, I'll give you a massage. Have a good sleep tonight, and you should be fine when you wake up tomorrow." Murphy obediently lay down on the bed according to Yang Yi's instructions, and even took a small pillow to cushion her pelvis. After a while she suddenly cried out, what are you rubbing on me? It's cold. Olive oil. Yang Yi lifted Murphy's pajamas, pulled down her pajamas, and rubbed a layer of lubricating olive oil on her waist. Don't worry, it hasn't started yet. Yang Yi really wasn't joking with Murphy. He did have a certain understanding of massage. In the past, he taught himself how to massage himself, and relying on his familiarity with the human body structure, his massage technique was self-taught, and he also figured out his own unique technique, external-internal strength. It's hot, Mom. Under Yang Yi's massage technique, Murphy couldn't help but moan. She was a little embarrassed, and used words to cover it up. It hurts a little. Bear with it here, it hurts a little, and you'll feel better. Then be gentle. Murphy's voice was a little trembling. It hurts. Yang Yi rubbed Murphy for a while, and then wiped the sweat on his forehead with the back of his hand and said, Okay, it doesn't hurt now, right? Yang Yi's unique technique, although it only plays the role of heating and promoting the blood circulation, but it still consumes a lot of internal strength. After a while, Yang Yi himself was a little tired. It feels a lot better. Murphy said a little shyly. The conversation just now made her body can't help but ripple. Then I'll give you another massage. This time it shouldn't hurt. Yang Yi said gently. Since it was done, Yang Yi gave Murphy a full body massage, completely eliminating the soreness and fatigue on her muscles. When Yang Yi stopped, Murphy, who was too tired these days, had already fallen asleep under his warm hands. Yang Yi looked at her sweet smile in her sleep with some heartache. He tidied up her clothes, covered her with a quilt, tidied up her things, and then turned off the light and went out. Tonight, he will accompany his daughter to sleep. Chapter 278. On Saturday afternoon, Yang Yi had to go to the parent-teacher conference. Murphy also had to go to the company. Moreover, they were filming a MV right now, so there were too many people and too many eyes. It was not convenient to bring Shi over. So Yang Yi could only call Guazi over and let him stay in the shop to be Shi's nanny for half the day. Ding Xiang was also in the shop, but most of the time, she had to attend to the customers, so she could only help supervise the little fatty. The kindergarten's parent-teacher conference. Yang Yi had thought that he would have to sit on a small stool like Shi with the other parents. If that was the case, Yang Yi would feel terrible. How could his long legs fit on that small stool the little fellow sat on? Fortunately, the kindergarten had a meeting room that he did not know about. Under Teacher Shen's guidance, Yang Yi walked in. There were already some parents in the meeting room who were even more enthusiastic than Yang Yi. They had arrived early and were sitting in groups of 2s and 3s to chat. Yang Yi was greeting Wu Yu, Nan Yun, and a few other familiar parents when suddenly, a surprised voice rang out. Hey, little Yang, you're here? Come sit here. Yang Yi turned his head to look. Lan Hao Kai's round, smiling face appeared in the last row of the meeting room. This big boss had even moved the chairs around for him, leaving only 2 chairs that fit his and Yang Yi's figures. Yang Yi smiled and walked straight over to sit down beside Lan Hao Kai. Boss Lan, why are you so free today to come to the parent-teacher conference in person? Although Yang Yi called him Boss Lan, he used a teasing tone as he laughed. Needless to say, Lan Hao Kai liked Yang Yi's manner of being neither servile nor overbearing. If Yang Yi was too respectful, he would instead appear distant. Don't mention it. Some time ago, I tried to snatch a piece of land in Shanghai, but I didn't manage to get it. Lan Xian's mother asked me to attend the parent-teacher conference to relax. Lan Hao Kai waved his hand. The real estate industry. Yang Yi shook his head. Local protection is more serious. Your Jiangnan real estate companies are going to Shanghai. After all, their competitiveness is a little weaker. Little Yang, I didn't expect you to know about this. Lan Hao Kai was a little surprised and smiled. I thought that a scholar like you who specializes in writing novels would stay at home and ignore the outside world. Yang Yi smiled. I don't know much, but I really don't agree with the profiteering of real estate. If property prices keep rising, then this industry is a disguised form of exploitation for the people at the bottom. Although Lan Hao Kai was a real estate tycoon, Yang Yi was not afraid to say it in front of him. This was because Yang Yi knew that Lan Hao Kai would not dislike him because of this. Lan Hao Kai was stunned. He smiled bitterly and shook his head, saying, "What you said is not without reason. If I had a choice, I wouldn't want to be in the real estate industry, but I have no choice. Who asked my father to leave me a real estate company like this?" These words were a little annoying, but in reality, Lan Hao Kai was also teasing himself. When he inherited his father's real estate company, the company's market value was only 200 million. It was only after more than 10 years of painstaking management that it reached its current scale of several billion. Regardless of whether he liked real estate or not, Lan Hao Kai was not a simple rich second-generation heir. I think that the world's most promising development is not real estate, but the internet, Yang Yi said to Lan Hao Kai. At this time, Teacher Mu and several other teachers came in. Yang Yi and Lan Hao Kai's conversation temporarily stopped. Basically, all the parents were present. Under the auspices of Teacher Mu, the parent-teacher conference began on time. The first thing to be said in the parent-teacher conference was naturally to tell the parents about the current situation in the kindergarten and class. Teacher Mu also praised each student one by one. Regardless of whether they were naughty or not, Teacher Mu picked the good aspects and praised them first. Then, he mentioned a few of the children's usual problems and asked the parents to go back and urge the children to correct. For example, Lan Xian was the first to be praised by Teacher Mu. Lan Xian is a very kind and lovely child. She is very willing to help other children. Of course, there is a small problem. Lan Xian doesn't like to exercise very much. This has a negative impact on the child's physical development. I hope that when Lan Xian's father goes back, he will encourage the child to exercise more and eat more healthy food and fruits. Lan Hao Kai smiled and nodded. He also took notes. However, when it came to other children, Lan Hao Kai was not particularly interested in listening. Bored, he excitedly pulled Yang Yi to talk about the internet industry. No wonder he chose to sit in the legendary area of the club. It seemed that he did not intend to listen carefully at all. Yang Yi did not go to school, but he was not very interested in the situation of other children. So, while waiting for Teacher Mu to mention Shi's name, he also continued to whisper to Lan Hao Kai. The internet can be divided into two parts. One is the traditional internet used by our computers, and the other should be the mobile internet after the rise of smartphones in the past 2 years. The untapped cake of these two markets is as high as trillions. When it came to the internet, Yang Yi could talk more than real estate. They did not talk for long. Teacher Mu turned his gaze to Yang Yi. Yang Yi reacted quickly and immediately shut his mouth. This skill of hiding was 100%. Today, I also want to praise Shi. She is a very sensible child. She usually listens very carefully in class and works hard to complete the tasks assigned by the teacher. Since school started, she has received 3 big red flowers. Moreover, Shi also unites her classmates and loves the group. She is also willing to share with her classmates, whether it is delicious food or her story. Teacher Mu's praise made Yang Yi a little happy. He puffed out his chest as if to highlight his identity as the father of the girl who was praised. However, Teacher Mu did not intend to praise him just like that. She still wanted to invite Yang Yi up. Please invite Yang Yi's father up. Yang Yi walked over with a puzzled expression. Teacher Mu said with a smile, I mentioned before that she is willing to share with her classmates. The reason why the child is generous and kind is also related to the education of her parents at home. Shi's father is a very good cook. Moreover, I heard from Shi that you and your wife often encourage Shi to share with her friends at home, right? It seemed that she wanted him to share his experience. Yang Yi did not refuse. He nodded and said, Shi's mother has contributed more in this aspect. Before coming to kindergarten, Shi was a little introverted. Her mother hoped that she could make more friends and that she could be a generous and positive person, so she bought 2 lunchboxes for her. She is indeed a very open-minded mother. Of course, Yang-shi's father also works very hard. He has to prepare 2 lunches every day. That's not bad. He just needs to buy more ingredients. It won't take much extra time. Yang-yi smiled. But she usually likes to share some fairy tales with other children in kindergarten. Does Yang-shi's father know about this? Teacher Mu asked. Yang-yi nodded and said, "This is not my credit. I only found out about this later. But I think she did a good job, so I encouraged her to bravely tell stories to her friends. It doesn't matter if she can tell the complete story. Her mother and I both hope that she can be trained in this process, and also let her have a closer relationship with other friends. This is what we are happy to see." Very well said. I also hope that all the parents here can learn from Yang-shi's father and encourage them to do something that they can. Don't care about how the child does. The most important thing for us parents is to stimulate the enthusiasm of the children and let them be trained in these small things. Of course, the biggest reason why I invited Yang-shi's father up is actually because of this book. Teacher Mu suddenly laughed. She took out Shi's bedtime story from the bag next to the lecture under Yang-yi's surprised gaze. Chapter 279. Seeing his book being taken out, Yang-yi was a little surprised, but it was expected. Since Fu Jun told him Shi's bedtime story sold well, Yang-yi knew that one day this book would spread in Jiangqing City. This fairy tale book was recommended to me by my husband, but I didn't expect that the stories in it were all very familiar. For example, this Little Red Riding Hood, these 3 little pigs, and Pinocchio, whose nose will grow longer when he lies, and so on. Aren't they the stories that Yang-shi usually tells other children? Teacher Mu said with a smile, "It's also my fault for not reading the book seriously. When I looked back at the title of the book and the author's name, I suddenly realized that this popular fairy tale book was written by Yang-shi's father." The parents below the podium looked at Yang-yi with some surprise. Yang-yi didn't hesitate and admitted it generously. "Yang-yi, where do you sell this book? My Chi-Chi pesters me every day to tell her stories." Wu Yu, a good student sitting in the first row below the stage, covered her mouth and laughed. "I always feel that it's a bit of an advertisement. So, after the new book period, it's not easy to buy it on the market. I'll ask the publisher to send it to me later, and I'll send one to each parent." Yang-yi said generously. The parents present were actually not short of money. Yang-yi just expressed his intentions, but unexpectedly received a round of applause from them. In fact, Teacher Mu invited Yang-yi up not only to let him send the book, but also to invite him to give a story lecture to the children in the entire kindergarten in mid-December. This is also a feature of Springfield Kindergarten. They often invite some literary and artistic people to tell stories or perform literary and artistic performances to stimulate the children's interest. Of course, a talented parent like Yang-yi was the first person invited by the kindergarten. In October, Nan Xiaoyu's father, Nan Yun, was invited to perform calligraphy for the children, and this time it was Yang-yi's turn. Giving lessons to children was something new to him. After Mr. Mu finished speaking, Yang-yi did not decline and readily agreed. After coming down from the podium, Lan Hao Kai even gave Yang-yi a thumbs up. Boss Lon laughed heartily and said, "Little Yang, you're not being nice. I thought you were just a military novel writer. I didn't expect you to be so good at writing children's stories." "That's right. You're so good at it." "Of course not. I made up these stories for Shi. I didn't expect them to be so popular." Yang-yi smiled. "Besides, the sales of this book were so poor that I didn't want to show it off." "That's nothing. If you tell me, I'll buy you a few million copies. Then I'll give one to every employee and every customer. I guarantee you'll be a hit," Lan Hao Kai said righteously. Just as Yang-yi and Lan Zhou Kai were chatting about unrelated topics, Mr. Mu on the stage talked about the New Year's Day party that Springfield Kindergarten was going to hold on New Year's Day. This New Year's Day party was to invite parents to attend and share the joy with their children. Although there was still a month to go, the program had to be prepared as early as possible. After all, Other than inviting some parents to perform, the children in the kindergarten also had to come up with a program. If the little fellows below the age of 6 were to rehearse their program without a month's time, they would probably make a fool of themselves on stage. Therefore, when Mr. Moo mentioned this, other than inviting the parents to sign up and perform, he also invited the parents to participate and choose a fairy tale drama for the children to rehearse early. At this time, Wu Yu said excitedly, "Mr. Moo, there's no need to choose a drama that others have acted in countless times. Among the parents in our class, isn't there a storyteller king? How can we not use such a good resource? Let's get Yang Yi to write a new fairy tale drama for the children." This is good. Wu Yu's proposal was echoed by many parents. Mr. Moo also felt that this proposal was feasible, so Yang Yi was invited to the podium again. "Yang Yi, don't decline. Capable people have more work to do." Wu Yu smiled sweetly in the audience. A new fairy tale drama? This was not a problem. Yang Yi had also been learning to be a screenwriter recently. He just had to adapt some fairy tales in his mind into a drama that children could perform. This was not too difficult. Moreover, the drama he wrote was for Shi and her friends to perform. How could Yang Yi decline? When he agreed on the podium, he had already begun to think about which story to adapt. The story of Little Red Riding Hood? This had already appeared in the book. Maybe it would clash with the performance of the other classes. Although the probability was very low, Yang Yi was not willing. The Emperor's new clothes? This was not bad. Many children could participate in the performance. However, this kind of story could be performed for adults. If it was performed for children, they probably would not understand. The meaning of the story was too profound. Got it. Yang Yi thought of a very good story. However, this required a lot of costumes and props. But in front of parents who were not short of money, this was not a problem. Her father went to the kindergarten for a parent-teacher conference and had 2 more tasks. She did not know about these things that were happening. The little girl was sitting face to face with Uncle Gua at this moment, staring at him. Last time, when she ran around with Lan Xian and bumped into customers, although her father did not blame Shi, he still reminded Shi to pay attention to the situation when playing. So today, Shi was very obedient and did not run around. Without the little master chasing after them, the 3 little British Shorthairs did not make a fuss. Little Grey and Dodo were lying on the table by the window, squinting their eyes to bask in the sun. Xiao Guai, on the other hand, was lying next to its little master. It turned over and revealed its soft belly. Its long forelimbs pulled at its little master's arm as if it was saying, "Meow, little master, I'm soft here. It's the most fun. Come and scratch it." However, she did not notice. The little girl pouted and looked at Guazii unhappily. Guazii was scared by her look. He could not continue reading the script in his hand. He said to Shi helplessly, "Miss Shi, what's wrong with you? My papa asked you to play with me, but you don't play with me. I'm unhappy." The little girl complained. "I'll play with you." "Why wouldn't I play with you?" Guazii had to put away the script and sit up. "Uncle won't do anything this afternoon. I'll play with you." He, Uncle Gua is so nice." His words made the little girl feel that she was valued. She said with a smile, "Then what shall we play?" "What shall we play?" Guazii scratched his head. He had to think about a game that could be played with children. It could not be too difficult, and it did not need items that were too difficult to obtain. If only there were poker cards. Guazii could play poker with Shi. But where could he buy poker cards now? Got it. Guazii patted his head and raised his index finger to Shi. Shi, wait for me." The little girl turned her head in confusion. She saw Guazii run to the counter and talk for a while. Then he took a stack of small paper and a pen from Ding Xiang. Weren't these used to write menus? No wonder Ding Xiang didn't want to give them to him at first. Shi stood up, stepped on the sofa, and leaned on the table. She watched Guazii draw 4 lines on the small paper, 2 horizontal and 2 vertical, which crossed each other. She asked curiously, "Uncle Gua, are we going to draw?" No, this is a game that tests IQ, Guazhi said with a little pride. Chapter 280. Guazhi and she were going to play three-piece chess, also known as nine-palace chess. The rules of the game were very simple. The two of them would take turns to draw their own patterns in the 9 grids. Whoever connected their patterns into a line first would win. It doesn't matter if it's 3 horizontal lines, 3 vertical lines, or diagonal lines. As long as the 3 pieces are connected into a line, the winner will win, Guazhi said to Shi. Do you understand the rules? Guazhi explained in detail and even gave an example. Shi understood, but her focus was not on the rules. The little girl asked in confusion, "Why do I have to draw circles or crosses? I like 5-pointed stars." The little girl asked Guazhi for a pen. She held the pen in her small hand and drew a crooked 5-pointed star on the paper. Then she raised her small face and said very seriously, "Look, isn't this beautiful?" Guazhi rubbed his forehead and said helplessly, "Okay, as long as you like it." At the start of the game, little elf Cici held the guardian of the pentagram in her hand and was about to face the challenge of the fat demon king who was carrying a super donut. Should she weep and watch her home fall, or should she bravely throw out the pentagram and seal this evil fat demon king? Looking at the battle report brought by the reporter at the front, Guazhi let Shi go first. The little girl pulled a long face and seriously drew a 5-pointed star in the upper left corner of the grid. Although it was still a little crooked, it was much better than the first one. Looking at Shi drawing the 5-pointed star stroke by stroke, Guazhi sighed helplessly. It was obviously much more convenient to draw circles and crosses. Taking the pen from Shi's hand, Guazhi drew a circle in the center of the grid without thinking. "So fast," the little girl muttered. She continued to draw her 5-pointed star stroke by stroke in the middle of the vertical column on the left. Guazhi immediately drew a circle below, blocking the last grid where Shi was going to draw a line. No, how can you draw here?" The little girl pouted and said unwillingly, "Because if you don't draw here, you will win." Guazhi said cheerfully, "You can't draw it. If you draw it, I won't know what to do." Shi complained, stomping her feet. "It's okay, there are still so many empty grids. Shi, you can continue drawing." Guazhi encouraged, but he was very naughty and did not remind Shi of a certain problem. The little girl had a temper, but she was not spoiled. As she listened to Uncle Guaziba. Obviously, the little girl's brain circuit was not as complicated as an adult's. She drew the third 5-pointed star in the middle of the horizontal row. Guazhi raised his eyebrows and snickered. Taking the pen from Shi, he drew a circle in the upper right corner of the grid, then drew a diagonal line, stringing the 3 circles together. "Ha ha ha." Guazhi laughed proudly. "I won." Ah. The little girl only realized later that the circles were strung together. Uncle Guaziba had indeed won. I haven't finished drawing yet." She looked left and right, then pouted and admitted defeat. "How is it? Do you still want to play?" Guazhi laughed cheerfully. "Let's do it again. I want to win." The little girl stood on the sofa, arms akimbo, and said full of fighting spirit. However, how could the simple-minded Shi win against Guazhi, who was already 17 years old and had a mature IQ? She always had her own world in her calculations, and would always forget to judge the direction of her opponent's chess pieces. Unsurprisingly, the little girl lost to Guazhi, except for one game when she gave up on treatment and played randomly, which led to a draw. However, she was not discouraged. She kept on fighting, and the more she fought, the braver she became. Looking at the little girl frowning her thin eyebrows and thinking with her hands on the table, her bitter and resentful look was somewhat pitiful. Ding Xiang, who had passed by several times, could not stand it any more. She walked over when there were fewer customers. "Guazhi, don't bully Shi. She's so young, and you won't even let her play this game." That's right. With Sister Ding Xiang's support, the little girl pouted and stood by the side. How can you let her win in chess? Wouldn't that be cheating? Guazi complained. In this game, the willing have to admit defeat. If I let Shi win, she won't be happy, right? She tilted her head and thought, not understanding why she would be unhappy. She was very happy. Before the little girl could say anything, Ding Xiang, who had come over to fight for justice, asked Shi to move closer to Xiao Guai. Then, she sat down beside Shi. Come, Guazi, I'll play with you on behalf of Shi. She was a little surprised, but more than that, she was happy. She stepped on the sofa, leaned on Ding Xiang's arm, and clapped her hands. Hee, okay, Sister Ding Xiang, help me win. Guazi, who thought highly of himself, actually didn't think that Ding Xiang could win. He smiled, tore open a piece of paper, drew a 9-square grid, and handed the pen to Ding Xiang. Draw stars, draw stars. The little girl saw Ding Xiang draw a cross in the middle of the grid and hurriedly urged her. Ding Xiang followed the little girl's instructions and changed it while telling Shi the trick. Shi, the next time you play this game, if you can move first, you must play here. You have a higher chance of winning here, and the 2 diagonals can be connected into a line. Yes. He always plays here. Shi pointed at Guazi and pouted. Guazi smiled and drew a circle in the middle of the bottom row. In fact, he was a little careless. He always played casually, thinking that he would be able to win. Ding Xiang saw Guazi's move and smiled slightly. She turned her head and whispered to Shi, "We're going to win." The little girl couldn't tell at all. She leaned close to Ding Xiang's ear and whispered, "Why?" "Look." Ding Xiang drew a 5-pointed star in the bottom left corner. Guazi suddenly frowned. He finally reacted and smiled bitterly. "I lost. Let's talk about it after the game." Ding Xiang was a little dissatisfied. Guazi could only draw a circle in the upper right corner to block the line that Ding Xiang was about to connect. He had no other choice. Ding Xiang then drew a 5-pointed star in the middle of the left column. At this moment, the smart Shi also saw the chance of winning. She shouted happily, I know. Let me do this." Guazi smiled bitterly. He could only draw a circle in the upper left corner to put out the fire. However, Shi took a pen and drew a 5-pointed star in the middle of the right column. In an instant, a line was formed. Hee, Uncle Gua drew here. We can win there too. The little girl seemed to be enlightened and interpreted clearly. Shi, who had finally won, didn't have to suffer anymore. She hugged Sister Ding Xiang's neck intimately and smiled like a flower. "Sister Ding Xiang, let's play another game." This time, it was Guazi's turn to be unconvinced. Ding Xiang patted the little girl's little butt and asked her to stand properly so that she wouldn't fall. Then, she shook her head at Guazi. "What's the point of playing this game? You know, this 3-in-a-row game can't be lost or won in front of people who know how to play it." Guazi lost the game just now and felt that his IQ was challenged by Ding Xiang. He gritted his teeth and took out his script. He took the blank space on the back and drew many squares. "Let's play 5 in a row. I don't have time to play with you. I have to work." Ding Xiang shook her head, stood up and walked to the bar. "It doesn't matter. I won't disturb your work. When there are no customers, let's walk a few steps." Guazi held the script and chased after her. "I want to see it too." She jumped down from the booth excitedly. In the evening, Yang Yi came back from kindergarten and took Shi home. "Shi, do you want to know what the teacher praised you for today?" However, the little girl ran into the bedroom excitedly and took out her drawing paper and small pencil. She ran out again and said, Papa, let's play chess. I'll teach you how to play 3 in a row." "What?" Chapter 281. At the end of the year, Mu Yucheng was very busy with work. But no matter how busy he was every day, he had to spare some time at 10 in the morning and 4 in the afternoon to catch up on Prison Break written by that bastard Yang Yi. Yes, in the past, Mu Yuqing would still respectfully address Yang Yi as Great Master Yang Yi in the book review section. But now, he had gone with the crowd and also scolded Yang Yi as a bastard. Who asked this guy to keep everyone in suspense every day? Just one prison break, and he still hadn't escaped after a few months. There were so many twists and turns that everyone had a heart attack. They were sent to the hospital, recovered, came back for another visit, had another heart attack, was sent to the hospital again, and then struggled in the middle of the night. I want to read the new chapter. Half of the posts in the book review section of Prison Break were discussing the plot, while the other half were urging the author to update. Most of them were complaining about the endless prison break. And the one that everyone raised up was a book friend's godly complaint. Young people don't know the taste of worry, daring to chase prison break, brave and fearless. When one reaches middle age, everything stops. How can one stop without reading the Prison Break? Old people often recall young people's madness. When they read Prison Break, they go crazy again. When the day of Prison Break is over, I'll tell you about it. This book was really poisonous. Look at the poison that can't be stopped. Mu Yuqing recalled the dozens of years of reading books and couldn't help but want to complain about Yang Yi, the master abuser. Not only did he let Michael's toes be cut off by Abs, but he also set up all kinds of difficulties for Michael's prison break. Almost every plan had some kind of dangerous situation, and the prison break plan was inevitably joined by Teabag, Abs, Note. More and more vicious and evil prisoners with ulterior motives. What was even more heart-wrenching was that these people were also scheming against each other. For example, Teabag and Abs hated each other. When Teabag eavesdropped on Michael and his brother's conversation and came back to tell them that one person would be excluded from the prison break list due to insufficient planning, Abs wanted to get rid of Teabag, the thorn in his side. However, Abs's throat was slit by the struggling Teabag with a razor blade hidden on him, and he was rushed to the hospital. Michael had also lost some of the prison blueprints because he was accidentally scalded. Fortunately, he found Wire, who was locked up in the mental ward, and used his godlike memory to recover the blueprints. Not only inside the prison, but also outside the prison. The mysterious forces had been planning to kill Lincoln. Fortunately, Lincoln had escaped death several times. He had escaped the electric chair, the truck that knocked him down, and the assassination of the agents. However, with his father's help, Lincoln was still unable to escape from prison. In order to cover his father's escape, he surrendered himself to the prison guards who surrounded him. Fortunately, despite all the twists and turns, Michael's plan seemed to be quite thorough. Even if the terrifying Abs recovered and returned, as long as there were no more accidents, they could carry out the escape according to the original plan. However, Mu Yuqing didn't think that things were that simple. Just yesterday, Mu Yuqing saw that in the latest 2 chapters, Yang Yi had tricked the main character again. In order to save his own life, the weak and incompetent gigolo Tavina actually reported Michael's escape plan to Barrick. The shocked Barrick smashed open the floor of the police room and unsurprisingly discovered the hole that Michael and the others had painstakingly dug out. They were discovered by the tricky prison guard Barrick, who was always targeting the main character. Then why were Michael and the others still playing? Wouldn't all their hard work go down the drain? However, at this time, the evil Yang Yi actually stopped the chapter. Mu Yuqing's heart was in so much pain that he couldn't sleep well. He finally managed to stay up until 10 in the morning and saw the latest chapter. What happened? Mu Yuqing couldn't wait to open the webpage and subscribe to the latest chapter. 2 seconds later, Mu Yuqing excitedly waved his fists. Grandpa, well done. It turned out that when Barrick discovered the hole, Westmoran had also appeared at the door of the office. He held the shovel and wrestled with Barrick. Although the old man's physical strength couldn't compare to Barrick, who was as fat as a pig, the old man still managed to turn the situation around in the end. He unexpectedly grabbed the iron kettle and smashed Barrick, who had snatched the shovel away. However, the scene that followed made Mu Yuqing's heart wrench again. Why this scene? Because Yang Yi also included an illustration. In the illustration, Grandpa Westmoran was shakily pulling out a long glass shard from his waist. Yang Yi also used a technique of illustration to give a close-up of the blood-stained glass shard. In the struggle just now, the old man was pushed by Barrick onto the table and crushed the coffee kettle. The broken glass shard pierced into his stomach. Old master won't die, right? Mu Yucheng finished reading this chapter. He was on tenterhooks and felt a little uneasy. The old man still covered his wound, pushed the trash can out, and returned to the team. He also sent a message to everyone. We must escape from prison. We have to leave now. Beric was tied up in the pipe by the old man. Obviously, his unexpected disappearance would definitely attract the attention of the prison. If they didn't escape today, the prison would launch a large-scale search and they would never have another chance. However, the chapter was interrupted again. Mu Yucheng couldn't help but complain about Yang Yi in the book review section and catch up with the latest chapter. At this moment, there were still many posts in the book review section worried about the old man's condition. This kind and cute Grandpa Westmoran won't die, right? Please have mercy on him, Yang Yi. Don't let him die. I think Westmoran is dead for sure. Think about it, they are in prison and lack medicine and medical treatment. They can't seek medical treatment. Did you see that illustration? With such a long glass shard, the wound is probably as deep as a finger. He won't die for a while, but if he doesn't seek medical treatment quickly, he won't be able to hold on. Moreover, he is so old. Are you crazy? The old man is fine and he wants to die. I think there is still hope. Don't they have a medical room to escape from prison? Once they get there and bandage the wound, the old man will definitely get better. Hey, aren't you worried about this prison break? It's so hasty. I think it's a little risky. Mu Yucheng's heart couldn't help but tremble. He echoed below, don't say that. I'm also very worried. What if Yang Yi comes up with something else? And with his character, he probably won't let Michael and the rest escape so easily. The arrow was already on the bow and had to be released. What kind of twists and turns would there be when Michael and the rest's prison break officially began? However, the next chapter would have to wait until 4 in the afternoon. Mu Yucheng and the other book fans could only continue to wait sadly. Yang Yi, the instigator, didn't know how many book fans were gnashing their teeth and wanting to send him razor blades online. He was sitting in a coffee shop with Fu Jun sitting opposite him. The two of them were discussing the transfer of Sahara Publishing House. Chapter 282. Fu Jun thought about it for a long time and decided to come to Zhongqing personally to talk to Yang Yi. If he wanted to speed up the development of Sahara Online Shopping Mall, it was obviously not enough to rely on Sahara Online Shopping Mall alone. He had to increase capital and expand shares to bring in new capital. He had to discuss this with Yang Yi. Moreover, Fu Jun came this time to talk to Yang Yi about the proportion of his shares. Although he trusted Yang Yi, business was business. In order to avoid future risks, Fu Jun had to maintain his shares in a reasonable and safe range. Currently, Yang Yi had 49% of Sahara Online Shopping Mall shares. According to Fu Jun's proposal, Fu Jun wanted to use his personal funds to buy Yang Yi's 9% shares at a premium price of 30% higher than the market value of Sahara Online Shopping Mall. After that, Fu Jun and Yang Yi would take out 9% of the shares according to their shares. Yang Yi would take out 6% of the shares, and a total of 15% of the shares would be used for financing. After 2 rounds of financing, the money obtained from the financing would naturally enter the company's account and be used for the development of Sahara Online Shopping Mall. At the current valuation of Sahara Online Shopping Mall, which was close to 200 million, Yang Yi's 9% shares could be sold for about 18 million. Compared to Yang Yi's 5 million investment a few months ago in exchange for 49% of the shares, this 18 million only needed to sell 9% of the shares to make a huge profit. However, compared to the development of Sahara Online Shopping Mall, selling only 18 million was obviously a loss. That was why Fu Jun wanted to pay a premium of 30%. He would have to spend about 23 million yuan to buy the 9% shares in Yang Yi's hands. Although it was still unfair to Yang Yi, this was the greatest sincerity Fu Jun could offer. You have 23 million? Yang Yi frowned and asked in confusion. If Fu Jun had so much money, he would not have agreed to Yang Yi's 5 million investment a few months ago. I can't take out 20 million at the moment, but I can mortgage a villa to the bank and borrow 4 million. Fu Jun smiled bitterly. This was the truth. If Yang Yi wanted more, he would really have to sell everything he had. However, Yang Yi was not a guilty businessman who reeked of money. He invested in the Sahara Online Mall to make money to build an amusement park for his daughter, not to make himself the richest man. Therefore, earning 100 billion and 10 billion did not mean much to him. Yang Yi did not directly answer if he wanted to sell the 9% shares. He smiled and looked at Fu Jun, who was thirsty after talking a lot and was drinking water, and said, "How much is your Sahara Publishing House worth now?" The Sahara Publishing House was also Fu Jun's painstaking effort. He had been running it for more than 10 years and had also grown it from small to big. Now, with the help of the Sahara Online Mall and the promotion of Yang Yi's 2 best-selling books, it had also grown a lot. But compared to the other giants in the same industry, there was still a clear gap. Fu Jun didn't know why Yang Yi mentioned the publishing house, but he didn't hesitate and answered directly, "Not much, about 15 million. It should be more than 15 million, because Fu Jun had spent more than 2 million to buy a printing factory a month ago. This was his personal investment, but it was also under the name of the publishing house. You don't have to mortgage the villa. I want your publishing house, and then you have to give me another 5 million to make it a round number." Yang Yi smiled at Fu Jun and said, "However, you have to know that our shares are worth more than this. I will transfer the 9% shares to you, and later on, we will get 15% shares. Don't just get 40 million back, you have to get at least 400 million. 400 million? Fu Jun was taken aback. You think our company is worth 2 or 3 billion? 2 or 3 billion is considered too little. It's just a little difficult at the beginning. When it goes public, you will know how powerful this online mall is." Yang Yi said with a little pride, "Of course, it's not wrong for you to take out a little financing now. What you lose is only a small profit. If we seize this development opportunity, we will earn more." After listening to Yang Yi's description, Fu Jun asked with some emotion, "Since you think it's worth 2 or 3 billion, why are you still willing to sell it to me at such a low price?" Yang Yi was amused. "That's because I'm not just investing in the Sahara Desert. I'm also investing in you. You can steer the ship with peace of mind and let the online shopping mall develop well. I can also earn back the money I lost in the future." Fu Jun's overall ability was not particularly outstanding, but he had a good character and had his own unique management skills. In addition, he listened to Yang Yi's words. Where could one find such a shopkeeper? If he didn't support Fu Jun, did Yang Yi want to see investors squeeze Fu Jun and him away and wantonly alter the development of Sahara Online Mall? Why do you want Sahara Publishing House? Fu Jun was actually still a little reluctant. After all, the publishing house was his first child. However, it was not impossible for him to give it to Yang Yi because his focus was now more and more on the online mall. He had almost no time to pay attention to the development of the publishing house. Publishing house? Don't I write my own books? Not all content is suitable to be published on the internet. It's much more convenient to have a publishing house. Yang Yi said truthfully. You want Sahara Publishing House to serve you alone? Fu Jun was dumbfounded. Yes. Isn't it fun to do this? Yang Yi said happily. I'll throw the manuscript to the publishing house, and they will proofread it for me, typeset it, and so on. Then, they will arrange for it to be sold on your online mall. It's a one-stop service, private customization, and absolutely first-class enjoyment. In fact, Yang Yi had this idea. Regardless of whether the publishing house could be profitable or not, Yang Yi wanted to build it into a publishing house that belonged to him alone, just like Murphy's studio. Since he was a person who was reborn, Yang Yi could be willful and enjoy it. Why not? What's more, Yang Yi wasn't worried about the profits of the publishing house. In the future, he would write a lot of works. With the publishing house responsible for their various copyright operations and promotion, they would definitely make a lot of money. Yang Yi could also save a lot of trouble. The two discussed the transfer of shares of Sahara Online Mall and the financing of capital expansion. Fu Jun curiously asked, Yang Yi, are you going to invest the remaining 5 million into micro-broadcasting? Yang Yi smiled faintly and nodded. Micro-broadcasting's development had also reached a critical period. Not only did they need to increase investment to buy servers, but now Yang Yi also asked Mao Peifu to make a star recruitment plan. Micro-broadcasting's development model was different from Facebook's. By spending some money to let some big stars open their own micro-broadcasting accounts, they could attract more people to understand and join the new micro-broadcasting. Yang Yi was confident that as long as they registered accounts and started playing micro-broadcasting, it would be difficult to get rid of it in the future. But all of this required money. Although Yang Yi's remuneration was high, almost half of it was invested in Murphy's studio as the second phase of funds. There was also a portion of miscellaneous expenses. Now he was living a tight life. Do you still need investment for micro-broadcasting? Fu Jun's eyes immediately lit up, and he asked happily, I still have money, I'll invest for you. Yang Yi helplessly rolled his eyes and said, President Fu, don't worry about the online mall. This is the real money tree. Micro-broadcasting is nothing compared to this. Yang Yi didn't lie to Fu Jun. No matter how well micro-broadcasting developed, there were limits. Besides, he originally wanted to treat micro-broadcasting as his own toy. In order to prepare for Murphy's development in the future, even if this project developed slowly, he estimated that he wouldn't use financing. Fu Jun was a little disappointed, but he didn't mention this issue again. He had achieved the basic purpose of coming to Jiang City today. Chapter 283. In the new week, she could see her friends again. After saying goodbye to her father, she carried her small school bag and skipped upstairs. She, you're here. As soon as the little girl entered the classroom, she was surrounded by a group of children. Not only Lan Xin and Yang Luoqi, but also the children from other classes. Xin Er, Zhao Yu, Chen Shiyun, Chi. Hello. The little girl thought that they were here to say hello to her. Being so popular, she was overjoyed. She hurriedly greeted them one by one. She was a little overwhelmed. Shi, your father is so awesome. Yang Luoqi took Shishi's hand and said admiringly, I'll tell you a lot of stories. And he's written a book. My father said that Shishi's father will send us books. Lan Xin shouted. Yes, I want to read it. Chan Shiyun said expectantly. You won't understand. My father said that he'll ask my mother to read it to me. Lan Xin said proudly as she puffed out her small chest. Then my father will also ask my mother to read it to me. Chen Shiyun shouted, unconvinced. Regardless of the daily competition between the two little girls, the other children also excitedly surrounded Shishi. Then, a child who had not been to Shishi's home before asked curiously, Shishi, what does your father look like? She was bombarded by her friends' questions. She was a little dizzy. It was not easy for her to understand that they were praising her father. The little girl was full of pride, as if they were also praising her. Her face was flushed. Facing the child's question, Shishi proudly said, My papa is very good-looking, super tall, super cool. Is he like a prince? A little girl held her small hands and asked enviously. Yes, he's 100 times more handsome than a prince. The little girl nodded. My father has also published books, but I also think that your father is the best. Nan Zhaoyu said enviously, Your father is much more interesting than my father. I don't even want to go home when I play with your father, Shi. He wondered what Yang Yi would think if he knew that Nan Zhaoyu had praised him like that. She was very happy when she heard this. She even giggled and said, Then Zhaoyu, you can come to our house to play. You don't have to go back. However, Nan Zhaoyu said worriedly, No, if I don't go home, my parents will be worried about me. All right then. We can't let Papa and Mom worry. She also nodded vigorously. I like to go to Shishi's house. Shishi's house is much more fun than mine. Lan Xin shouted. Shishi, can I also go to your house and not go back? But what if your papa doesn't agree? She asked worriedly. Lon Xian thought for a moment and said with certainty, "My father will definitely agree. He likes me to go to your house to play." He, then can we sleep together? The little girl held Lon Xian's hand. I also want to go to Shi's house to play. Young Luoqi looked at them enviously. I want to play with Shi's father. There were still a few girls who could not forget. When Nan Zhaoyu heard this, he kindly said, "My father said that Shi's father will come to tell us a story soon, just like the last time my father came." Really? Nan Zhaoyu was suddenly surrounded by a few little girls, who all asked at once. Really? He was a little flustered and quickly nodded. A liar is a puppy. That's great. I like Shi's father. I like him too. Will he bring us delicious food? Because today's work was only arranged to shoot a music video, and Murphy's scenes were pitifully few, after finishing early, Murphy could go home early for once. She was picked up by her father. When she saw her mother, she could not wait to pounce on her, her little face full of excitement. Mom, do you know? I'm very happy today. Really? Why are you so happy? Murphy picked up the little girl and asked with a smile. Because everyone likes me and Papa so much. The little girl proudly said to her mother, "They all want my Papa." Yang Yi walked over with Shi's school bag, took out the little girl's lunchbox, and said with a smile, "It's probably because after the parent-teacher conference, their parents told their children that I wrote a book for Shi. When Shi finished school just now, a group of children lined up to say hello to me, which gave me a fright." He said it lightly. Murphy did not know how popular the scene was at that time. A group of children rushed to him with shining eyes. Each and every one of them was like a fan. If they could say a word to Yang Yi, their faces would bloom with joy. If they could hold hands with Yang Yi, whether it was the little boy or the little girl, they would all be happy. Yang Yi found it difficult to understand their excitement, and he did not know how many good things his daughter said about him to these children in class. It was almost as if they had set up a cult to worship Shi's Papa, and praised Shi's Papa as if there was no other good father in the world. "Look at how happy you are. With so many children saying hello to you, you must be very proud, right?" Murphy said with some jealousy. Mom, there's more. Papa is going to go to the kindergarten to tell us stories, just like Zhaoyu's Papa, but everyone likes my Papa and doesn't like Zhaoyu's Papa." She held her mother's face. She did not finish speaking. "You can't say that. If Nan Zhaoyu hears it, he will be unhappy." Murphy educated, She, you can't say that others don't like you." "But I didn't say that." She was a little puzzled. "That's not right either. It's not right for them to do that. Our She can't learn from them, right?" Murphy said softly. "Okay then." The little girl nodded obediently. In the evening, after She fell asleep, Yang Yi gave Murphy a routine massage, but not as hard as before. He only rubbed her shoulders, waist, and calves to relieve muscle fatigue. "I also want to go to Shi's kindergarten," Murphy suddenly said in a low voice. Yang Yi, who was massaging Murphy's calves, didn't understand and turned to look at her. "I think if my identity is known by Miss Mu and others, they will also invite me, won't they? I can teach the children to sing." Murphy pouted. "But you haven't made your identity public yet." Yang Yi smiled and said, "Don't think so much, and don't blame yourself. I know you have your difficulties. I'm also a little worried. If it's made public, will Shi be harassed by those reporters?" Murphy sighed. Yang Yi didn't say anything, but gently picked up Mo Fei's soft hand that had been put aside. Murphy moved her butt and hugged Yang Yi's neck. She pouted slightly and muttered, "What should I do? I also want to be like you and be liked by so many of Shi's classmates. I really want to be the person that Shi is proud of." Now Shi will also be proud of you. She's especially happy when she sees you on TV. Yang Yi patted her back and said gently, "Don't be anxious. We'll follow your arrangement. If it's really made public, it's no big deal. With me around, No one can disturb our lives. Murphy leaned on Yang Yi's shoulder, still a little worried. Think about it. One day in the future, when you make your identity public, Shishi will happily say to her classmates, "Look, that's my mother. She's a big star who sings a lot of good songs." Yang Yi teased her, "At that time, when you go home, you'll see a stack of records, all of which your daughter asked for autographs for her classmates." No way, how can a child ask for autographs? You only know how to talk nonsense. Murphy couldn't help but laugh. Chapter 284. Get ready, all cameras. Are you ready? Action. With a shout mixed with Chinese and English, several cameramen walked in a bamboo forest with cameras and took pictures. There were also people helping to pull the strings. And in the midst of the falling bamboo leaves, a beautiful woman in a plain white ancient costume slowly walked out as if she had traveled through time. Her appearance was unparalleled, delicate and refined. Her expression was indifferent, and her temperament was otherworldly. Her fluttering white dress made her look like a fairy. Her beauty was somewhat suffocating. Without accompaniment, her red lips slightly opened as she sang, "Time is hard to come by. The autumn wind is tired of drifting. The setting sun refuses to leave. Hanging on the wall, reluctant to part with me." Yes, the person who was surrounded by photographers was Mo Fei, who had changed into an ancient costume. Mo Fei, who had changed into the ancient costume, was really beautiful. She seemed to have become 10 years younger. What was even more amazing was the original cold temperament of her body, which matched with her white ancient costume dress, gave people the feeling that she was a fairy who had descended to the mortal world. She almost didn't look at the camera, as if there was no one around. While looking around, she slowly sang the lyrics. Without accompaniment, she sang with a resonant voice as if there was an accompaniment. The words that once whispered in my ears have already flowed eastward like the sound of the tide. The most wonderful part was the first sentence. Mo Fei's high but not overbearing voice echoed in this bamboo forest, and it was fascinating to listen to. Note 1. After this scene was shot, the director was obsessed with Murphy's appearance and singing. After a while, he remembered to shout, "Cut." He walked over and sighed. There was a problem with the shot just now. "Murphy, although I said that you don't have to be in the camera, you can't not look at the camera the whole time. In any case, there should be at least two frontal shots, right?" Murphy put her hands in front of her and stood quietly. She listened seriously and nodded slightly. One more time. This was the shooting location of the MV for Murphy's new album, Carefree Lament. Murphy was not the main character. The director wanted to shoot scenes of her singing. When the time came, he would choose a few scenes to intersperse in the plot of the MV. However, after today's shooting, the director was afraid that after today's shooting, the director would be worried again. The image of this singer was probably going to completely suppress the female lead of the MV, and even steal the limelight of the male lead. Should he cry? Or should he laugh? Of course, it would be best to let Murphy be the female lead, but Murphy doesn't know how to act. Forget it. There was a break in the middle. Murphy lifted the hem of her ancient dress and walked to the side. Mo Shaowan was afraid that she would catch a cold, so she quickly put a jacket on her. Murphy sat on a chair and drank water. Seeing Mo Shaowan stretch and yawn, she felt a little apologetic. She said, "Shaowan, come and sit too. It's okay to squeeze a little." After all, they were filming an outdoor scene and there weren't that many chairs. Mo Shaowan was also a little careless and forgot to prepare a chair for herself. As a result, the two sisters took turns to sit on one chair. "There's no need. Squeezing a piece will wrinkle your skirt. You just have a good rest. I'll sit again when we're filming." Mo Shaowan smiled as she wiped the tears from her yawn. Murphy looked at Mo Shaowan's face and said with a little heartache, "Shaowan, it's been hard on you these days. You've been running around with me and often staying up late. Look at you, you've become a lot more haggard." Mo Shaowan was indeed more tired. Most of the time, she was accompanying Murphy and dealing with daily life issues, including working overtime at night. Yang Yi couldn't pick her up, so she had to send Murphy home and so on. But at the same time, she also had to deal with Murphy's business affairs and set aside some time to build Murphy's studio. All of these consumed a lot of time and energy. Even when Murphy was resting at home during the holidays, Mo Xiaowan couldn't be idle. "Isn't this normal?" Mo Xiaowan smiled. "Sis, I'm your manager. If I'm not busy, wouldn't it be too irresponsible? Then you have to rest well. If you're at the company and don't have anything to do, you don't have to stay with me. You can go back and rest." Mo Xiaowan turned her head and looked around. She lowered her voice and said, "How can that be? I have to guard against Sister Ling. I'm afraid that if I'm not around, you'll stupidly sign a contract with someone else. That would be troublesome." "Do you think I'm that stupid?" Mo Fei said angrily. "Ha." Mo Xiaowan didn't want to be entangled in this issue. She suddenly called out softly and reached out to touch Murphy's face that only had light makeup on. "Sis, why do you look so good?" "Ah." Murphy was a little confused. "A while ago, I saw that your spirit was worse than mine. You were so tired that you couldn't even straighten your back. Why does it seem like you're getting better day by day? Look, your face is so tender." Mo Xiaowan was a little surprised. "Did you use some skincare products?" If there was, Mo Xiaowan wanted a car full of them. "What? I usually just use some skincare products." "Don't you have some too? I even asked you to buy it for me," Murphy said strangely. Murphy suddenly thought of something. "Oh right. Yang Yi will also give me some care." Murphy couldn't say the word massage. She felt that it would reveal something. Mo Xiaojuan's eyes lit up and asked, "What kind of care? Is brother-in-law that amazing? Can I try it?" Which woman doesn't like to be beautiful? However, Murphy thought of some scenes that were not suitable for children during the massage and the indescribable beauty that often followed. She couldn't help but blush and say, "No, why do you want to try everything? Drink more water, sleep more, and maintain a proper routine. That's more important than anything else." Murphy said a little too much. Mo Xiaowan could see that she was trying to hide something. Mo Xiaojuan's imagination was very big. She suddenly thought of something and suddenly felt embarrassed. Cough cough, cough cough. "Sis, just pretend that I didn't say anything. I didn't ask anything. What are you thinking about?" Murphy's face turned even redder. She was trying to hide something. In Tianmei, in a recording studio that Zhu Jie had temporarily booked, Zhu Jie was singing in front of a microphone. "Waiting for you to tell me that you don't just want my love. I used silence to face your confession. The happiness of the past has disappeared." Zhu Jie's singing could only be said to be average. It wasn't particularly distinctive and didn't have a wide range. His singing was also just passable. However, the tone of this song was very flat and there was almost no challenge. It could be said that it was a song that was full of saliva. Zhu Jie could actually sing it well. Ah Jie, sing more affectionately. You have to sing that kind of heart-wrenching voice." Outside, Du Luan snatched the poor producer's microphone and said to Zhu Jie. Zhu Jie nodded confusedly. He didn't know much about affectionate feelings, but he could still sing heart-wrenching. He stretched out his hand, grabbed the clothes on his chest and sang miserably, "Finally, you became someone's mistress. I also know that it wasn't because of love." Du Luan nodded with satisfaction. Du Luan, if he sings like this, it's a little off-key. The producer reminded weakly. It's okay. He can sing off-key. What he needs now is this feeling. Help him stabilize this feeling. He has to rush to release a single in the middle of the month. Take advantage of the fact that there aren't many people releasing songs at the end of the year. Du Luan smiled and said proudly. He could already see the rising potential of a newcomer that he had personally groomed. Chapter 285. The weather was nice today, and Yang Yi was sitting in a booth next to the floor-to-ceiling window of the coffee shop. He was enjoying the warm sunlight as he concentrated on making changes to a stack of manuscript. He flipped through the manuscript, and sometimes he flipped to the first page. On it was written, "Ugly Duckling." Screenwriter, Yang Yi. This really was a children's play adapted by Yang Yi himself. Yang Yi only knew that the story of the ugly duckling was about a swan egg that was mixed into a duck egg. After an ugly duck hatched, it was discriminated against in all sorts of ways. In the end, it turned out to be a white swan. Of course, he didn't know the details of the story. In his previous life, he wouldn't have bought a fairy tale from Hans Christian Andersen. He only knew a bit of the plot from other people's quotations. With this pitiful memory, Yang Yi rewrote the story. He even added more characters and supporting dialogue based on the number of children in the middle class. Thus, there was nothing wrong with him signing himself as the screenwriter. The script was finished, but Yang Yi was still not satisfied. He felt that the dialogue had to be suitable for the children's age. He couldn't use a lot of rhetoric and adjectives like adults. Thus, he had been revising it all day. He still had to strike a balance between work and rest. Yang Yi put down the manuscript, stretched, and took his coffee cup to the bar to make himself a cup of coffee. Ding Xiang's skills had been honed, but Yang Yi was still self-sufficient. He didn't enjoy the coffee, but the process of grinding coffee beans, brewing coffee, and filtering the residue. However, he was somewhat surprised to see Guozi sitting on the bar with his butt up and chatting with Ding Xiang. Hearing the movement behind him, Guozi hurriedly straightened his back and put away his butt. He awkwardly greeted Yang Yi. "Big brother Yang, I saw that you were busy just now, so I didn't disturb you. Didn't you go to shoot a movie? Why do you have time to come here to play?" Yang Yi asked with a smile. "Him. Someone stood him up," Ding Xiang said as she helped Yang Yi take down his coffee. Yang Yi was surprised. "Senior Du stood you up?" Because of his relationship with Guozi, Yang Yi often called Du Yuanlei as senior sister Du. Of course, it was only to tease Guozi in private. "How could that be? She's always the earliest." Guozi waved his hand and said indignantly, "It's Tang Kai Tai. He's the male lead. 2 days ago, he was only late and asked everyone to wait for him. Today he didn't come." Tang Kai Tai? Yang Yi thought of the pretty boy who was not very energetic during the freshman's party, but he could always cover up his flaws and win the applause of many girls. "Why did your director choose him as the male lead?" Ding Xiang asked in confusion. "How can there be such a big shot? He's just a student." Senior sister Du thinks that Tang Kai Tai's acting is not bad, and he meets the requirements of a handsome male lead. Plus, he was very active in front of senior sister Du and pestered her to be the male lead. Senior sister Du didn't have a better candidate, so she let him try. Guozi made excuses for Du Yuanlei. Today he didn't deliberately not come. We waited for a while, then he called to say that there was an emergency at home and he had to go back. "There's no other way." Guozi spread his hands. The actual situation was similar, but Guozi knew that Tang Kai Tai was just making excuses. He could see that this guy showed all kinds of impatience after the movie started shooting. He was smiling on the surface, but cursing in his heart. Tang Kai Tai paid attention to his image, but he deliberately showed his easygoing side. What he did exposed his true thoughts. This time, he didn't come, which brought a lot of trouble to the crew. Originally, they were going to shoot Tang Kai Tai's scenes today. Du Yuanlei was worried that this guy would change his mind, so she brought forward all his scenes and asked Guozi, Qin Wen, and a few other supporting roles to memorize the corresponding scripts. However, if he didn't come, today's scenes couldn't be shot at all. Du Yuanlei and everyone's previous preparations were all in vain. Moreover, Tang Kai Tai said that because he was going back to Xiongnan, he wouldn't show up at school for a week. Although he sincerely apologized on the phone, Guozi could see that Du Yuanlei's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. Guozi was actually very annoyed, and he looked down on Tang Kai Tai even more. But since they were all in the same crew, it was not good to speak ill of others behind their backs. He could only say what he could say to Yang Yi and the others. So we're not shooting today? Yang Yi didn't understand the process of shooting a movie at all. He made his coffee, then turned around and asked with a smile. He motioned to Guazi to finish the coffee in his cup, and then poured a cup for him. We can't shoot, the main character didn't come, we can't just shoot blindly, right? Senior Du said that she will go back and take a look today, and then decide what to do tomorrow. She will inform us on SNS. Guazi said. Good things come with setbacks, the problems you encounter now are just stepping stones for your future success. Yang Yi smiled and raised his cup to Guazi. Come on, young man, you must always believe that good things are about to happen. What a big bowl of chicken soup. Guazi and Ding Xiang looked at each other. They didn't expect Brother Yang to do this. In Yangcheng, Li Manman, who had just participated in a product endorsement launch, walked out of the venue with a smile. Her agent, Yi Chi, and several security guards helped to block the reporters and some enthusiastic fans that swarmed over. You've all worked hard, everyone go home early and rest, thank you, thank you. Li Manman said with a smile as she received flowers and gifts from her fans. When she was about to walk out of the hotel, a reporter squeezed over with a small recording pen. Miss Li Manman, what do you think about Murphy, who was only on the show as a foil to you, now that she has been invited to participate in the Jixin interview with her song, Crossing the Ocean to See You? What do you think about this matter? The reporter's lung capacity was quite impressive to be able to finish such a long sentence in one breath. However, it poked at Li Manman's sore spot. In the past few years, she had expressed her wish to appear on Jixin Interview, a program that was said to only invite top celebrities, whether it was a pity, or pretending to be pitiful, or unintentionally mentioning it in some programs. Although being invited to the show might not be able to increase her popularity, but through the show or Luo Xin, she could enter the fashion industry. She might even be able to walk on the red carpet of the fashion festival. Then, her career would be able to take a big step forward. Her fans were also trying their best to promote this matter, and it became a hot topic on the internet. Because of this, she had the title of the woman who wanted to be invited to the Jixin interview. But Luo Xin didn't have any response to this matter. Murphy was the first to arrive. What would Li Manman think about this? When she heard this news, of course she was mad with jealousy. She didn't even know how many things she had smashed in her own house. But, in front of the reporters, she couldn't be so impolite. Li Manman smiled faintly and said, of course, I want to congratulate Sister Murphy. Sister Murphy is so talented, and her song, Crossing the Ocean to See You, is so good. It's only right for her to be invited to the Jixin interview. Then Miss Li, don't you think it's unfair? The reporter didn't pick on the matter and asked unwillingly. Okay, Man is very tired today, please be considerate. Yi Chi appeared and helped Li Man to stop the reporters. She explained with a smile and then escorted Li Man to the car. Chapter 286. Sorry, this chapter was added for Mr. CZX. Ah. Yang Yi, you scammer, who can tell me his address? I want to send him a razor blade. No, I want to talk to him personally about life. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, in the office of a technology company in Guangzhou, there was a desolate and desperate roar. The subordinates outside couldn't hear it clearly, and could only see Mu Yuqing inside the glass room pulling at his hair and going crazy. With his tie torn off and his messy hairstyle, Mu Yuqing's elegant image was nowhere to be seen. As a newly appointed department manager, this was the first time he had lost his composure like this. His subordinates were so scared that they were trembling in fear, afraid that they would be burned by the new manager. What happened? What made Mu Yuqing curse Yang Yi so crazily? It wasn't just Mu Yuqing. The tens of millions of netizens who were following Prison Break also flashed their knives and sticks. Yang Yi, get out here. I promise I won't beat you to death. The prison break was over. No, it couldn't be said to be over. Even though the title of the latest chapter had "End" written in brackets, it wasn't completely over. The scammer Yang Yi made a return trailer at the end of the chapter. Wait, forget about the trailer, let's look at the content of the latest chapters first. Previously, Beric had been tied up in the pipe by the old man, so Michael and the others had no choice but to start the prison break in advance. Michael didn't hesitate to use a knife to force Warden Pope, who had been taking care of him, to inform someone to transfer Lincoln to the infirmary. After many twists and turns and difficulties, Michael and Lincoln finally followed the route they had planned and climbed out of the prison. Even though Old West Moran, who had died of his injuries, and Sucre's brother, Manch, who had broken the rope and fallen down because he was too fat, the others still managed to cross the wall successfully. The day before yesterday, when Mu Yuqing and the other readers saw the empty wall and Manch being pressed to the ground by the prison guards, they confirmed that Michael had also successfully escaped. They were moved to tears, thinking that Yang Yi had changed and wasn't scamming his readers anymore. They were too naive. The plot after the prison break once again made their hearts clench. Michael and the others did not escape danger. They found the car that Abdul had arranged for them, abandoned the mentally ill Wire, and drove away from the prison guards. But in the process, the suppressed conflict in the team erupted again. Abs wanted to kill Teabag in the car, but Teabag had already planned it. He locked himself and Michael together and swallowed the key. Abzuz needed Michael's plan, so he could only give up on it for the time being. In the subsequent journey, in order to avoid the pursuit of the police, the car got stuck in the mud, and the team could only abandon the car and walk on foot. Then, in a farmhouse, they had a conflict again. In order to get rid of Teabag, Abzuz took advantage of Sucre and the others holding Teabag down to chop off Teabag's hand with his axe. When Mu Yuqing and the others saw the word "end" in the latest chapter, they thought that everything was over and that Yang Yi would arrange for these people to get on the plane and leave. However, the beginning of the chapter explained the situation of some of the characters. The mentally ill Wire continued to escape on a bicycle, Teabag was not dead, Sarah was found unconscious after being injected with an overdose of drugs, and Veronica appeared in front of Terence, who was killed by Lincoln. It was as if the fog had just revealed a small corner. However, Yang Yi explained the rest of the plot while they were getting more and more uneasy. Just as the last 5 people rushed to the plane that was supposed to take them away flew away. The police car was still chasing after them. End of Volume 1. Trailer. Volume 2 will begin again on January 1st next year. Please look forward to it. Yes, this line of words made Mu Yuqing despair and go crazy. What the hell? Shouldn't Prison Break have ended after they escaped from the prison? Why did it only end with Volume 1? Well, even if Volume 1 ended, why didn't it continue? You'll start again on January 1st next year after a month. What the hell was that? You want to take a break for a month? Isn't this cheating the readers? I've seen Yang Yi's nonchalant way of ending chapters, and I thought that was the peak of what humans could do. No, we're really too stupid. What's even better than ending chapters is this, ending the book. Some readers in the book review section laughed bitterly. Someone else laughed. What's the big deal about ending the book? Yang Yi is F*King not updating. Even the reason is so fresh and refined. Someone below went crazy. What should I do if I want to abandon the book? What sin did I commit in my previous life to come and read Yang Yi's book? I even read Prison Break. I want to abandon the book too, but I can't. I still want to know how they escaped. Will Sister Sarah die? Such a gentle and kind Sister Sarah, please don't die. And what will happen to Teabag and Steel Wire? Upstairs. +1. Speaking of which, Yang Yi hasn't stopped updating. Next door, The Remaining Sins is still updating. I don't want to read The Remaining Sins. After reading Prison Break, The Remaining Sins and other online novels have become boring. Sigh, but what if there's no more books? Forget it, let's go read The Remaining Sins. Hopefully, Young Dada will come back and update Prison Break soon after seeing how much we support him. Gradually, the atmosphere in the book review section changed. Although there were still some readers who had just seen the trailer and were still scolding Yang Yi, more and more people flocked back to the book review section of The Remaining Sins. During this time, The Remaining Sins, which had fallen a little, rushed back to the top of the rankings, while Prison Break, which was at the top of the list, was still standing firm. Yang Yi, who had been scolded badly, was not feeling good either. He received a call from his hometown. "Brother, I don't want to study anymore. I want to work." The person who called Yang Yi was his younger sister, Yang Yi's younger sister, Yang Huan. Yang Yi was the eldest brother, and he had a younger brother named Yang Qing. Finally, there was his youngest sister, Yang Huan. Yang Qing was 2 years younger than Yang Yi. Unlike Yang Yi, he had been working at home and was an honest farmer. Although his predecessor had been living frugally to send money home, Yang Qing had used it all for Yang Huan's studies. In the past few months, Yang Yi had started to give more money, which was why his family had arranged for Yang Qing to find a partner. They were still in the process of dating, and both parties were satisfied. They might get married next year. Yang Huan was only 19 years old. Children in the countryside started school late. She was only in her second year of high school, but her grades were very bad. She did not focus on her studies and always wanted to go to the big city. After all, she was still young. Moreover, she was the youngest child that everyone in the family doted on. Now, Yang Huan was arguing with her family again, saying that she did not want to study anymore and wanted to work in the big city and earn a lot of money like Yang Yi. On the phone, Yang Yi had no choice but to say, "How about this? Come to my place for a couple of days and see how it goes. What do you think?" Yang Huan agreed with great joy. However, after hanging up the phone, Yang Yi realized that things were serious. Chapter 287. Things were getting serious. His sister was coming. There were only 4 words left in Yang Yi's mind. After he hung up the phone, he even forgot to tell Yang Huan what kind of train to take to Jiang City and what a little girl should pay attention to on her first trip. His mind went blank. After a long while, he finally realized that Yang Huan was going to come to Jiangqing. He couldn't and shouldn't stop her. After all, the reason why he wanted Yang Huan to come to Jiangqing was because he wanted Yang Huan to study in a better school for a change of environment. But the problem was that he wasn't ready to tell his family everything. He hadn't been home for 2 years. Why did he suddenly have a 4-year-old daughter? He told his family on the phone that he had made some money. But in the past few months, the remittances had increased gradually, and the total amount was only a little more than 100,000. Now, he drove a car worth a few $100,000 and lived in a house worth a few million. Of course, the house was easy to explain. After all, it was only rented for 1 yuan. But what about the company and studio that he had invested tens of millions in? So much money, but he only gave his family a little more than 100,000. It didn't make sense. Wait, how did he make so much money? It seemed quite difficult to explain. Writing books was indeed profitable, but why did he not write books in the past and suddenly start writing novels now? Luckily, Yang Yi joined the army early. At that time, Yang Yi was only a few years old. She didn't know much about Yang Yi's situation in school. Maybe he could fool her a little. But why did he have to explain? Yang Yi felt that his head was about to explode. He had just fooled Murphy, and now there was another big challenge. Yang Huan was a mischievous girl. She wasn't easy to fool. In the evening, Yang Yi told Shi about it. Shi, your aunt will come in a few days. What's an aunt? She asked in confusion. An aunt is Dad's sister. Just like Wang Xiun is Wang Shijuan's sister. Yang Yi gave an example of Shi's kindergarten classmate. Really? Daddy's younger sister. Is Auntie pretty? The little girl's focus was completely off. Yang Yi did not know whether to laugh or cry, so he could only describe it to her. As a result, the little fellow was inexplicably excited. Although Yang Yi repeatedly said that his aunt had no money and would not bring gifts for her, she still looked forward to his arrival. When Murphy came back in the evening, the first one who ran up to her was Shi. Mom, my aunt is coming. They'll be here soon. You're what? What do you mean? Murphy didn't hear him clearly at first, so she was a little confused. My auntie. Mom, you don't know either? Papa said that she was Papa's little sister. Just like how Wang Xiun is Wang Shijuan's younger sister. She imitated her and began to show off her knowledge. However, Murphy was stunned. She was a little confused when she heard the news. First, she looked at Yang Yi, waiting for his confirmation. That's right. She argued with my family that she doesn't want to study and wants to work. I asked her to come over first to do some ideological work, so she might come over in a few days. Yang Yi touched his nose and smiled bitterly. Murphy's reaction was somewhat beyond Yang Yi's expectation. She was completely confused. Yang Yi brought her the chestnut and mushroom chicken soup. She drank it absent-mindedly and swung the spoon mechanically. If Yang Yi had not seen her and stopped her, she would have eaten the ginger slices. In the evening, she fell asleep sweetly with expectations for her aunt. Murphy pursed her lips and began to confide in Yang Yi. Yang Yi, I'm scared. Yang Yi felt that he was the one who was nervous and worried. But Murphy actually told him that she was scared. He couldn't help but be surprised. What are you afraid of? Yang Huan won't eat you when he comes. But I'm afraid that your sister doesn't like me. Murphy said nervously. No, you're so beautiful, and you're a big star. You must satisfy her vanity. She won't dislike you. Don't worry. Yang Yi could only hug her and comfort her. But Mo Fei did not relax because of this. Her face was tense, and she pouted her mouth and muttered, That's not necessarily true. She is her brother's woman, so she must have very high requirements. Even a big star may not work on her. Yang Yi stretched out his hand and pinched her tender cherry lips. You're thinking too much, he said in amusement. I'm not thinking too much. Think about it. When she sees me and she must have a lot of thoughts in her heart. In the past, you didn't take she back. Now that you suddenly have a little niece, she must think that it's my fault. Even if she doesn't say it, she must blame me in her heart. She must think that I'm an overbearing sister-in-law. No, I'll explain it to her. Yang Yi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He had thought that this would be a very troublesome problem before, but he didn't expect Mo Fei to take it all on him, so he was the first to worry. Or you can put all the blame on me and say that I abandoned you before. I won't allow you to say that. Murphy covered Yang Yi's mouth and rebuked. You're not a person who abandons someone. If you want to say it truthfully. Well, don't worry. I'll solve it. If she dares to dislike you, I'll beat her for you. Yang Yi smiled. No, how can you be so violent to your own sister? What you're doing is counterproductive, Murphy said reproachfully. I'm just kidding. Murphy calmed down under Yang Yi's jokes. She felt that she shouldn't panic first. She had to calm down and be prepared. Yang Yi, what kind of person is your sister? Murphy began to interrogate. What does she like? Does she like branded bags? No, don't buy too many expensive things for her. It'll be troublesome if she doesn't want to study anymore after playing around here. Yang Yi hurriedly waved his hand. It's okay if she doesn't study. Murphy once desperately wanted to please Yang Huan. Fortunately, she came to her senses in time. But it's better to study in the same university. You haven't told me what kind of person your sister is. What kind of person was Yang Huan? As Yang Yi recalled, he said, You know, our family used to be poor. My brother just got married this year. Our whole family was farmers who worked hard. Only Yang Huan was a little better. She was young, only 19 years old this year. Everyone in the family loved her. Although Yang Huan also needed to wash clothes, do housework, and even do some simple farm work such as drying rice, compared to Yang Yi and Yang Qing, who followed their parents to plant rice and weed after they grew up, Yang Huan was already much happier than the other children in the village. This also made Yang Huan develop a character that was completely different from her two brothers. Lively, naughty, bold, and playful. Yang Yi actually didn't spend much time with Yang Huan, but based on the memories he had, he was able to summarize some things. I don't know what she likes. Anyway, If you don't tell her and let her study hard, she'll probably be grateful to you. Yang Yi smiled bitterly. Then you can talk to her about this. Mo Fei said hurriedly, her face still full of worry. Although Yang Yi had said a lot, she still didn't feel confident at all. Yang Yi looked at Murphy's flustered look and said with concern, "Why don't you and Shishi go back and stay there first? I'll send Yang Huan away and then come back." "How can I do that? I have to face your family eventually," Murphy said unhappily. "Yes, I have to face them eventually. How can I please my sister-in-law?" Chapter 288. The next day, not only did Shishi wake up early in the morning, but when her father was wiping her face, she also asked why her aunt wasn't here yet. When she arrived at the kindergarten, she couldn't wait to tell her friends about it. "My little aunt wants to come and see me. She wants to play with me." The little girl had already guessed Yang Huan's purpose in coming over, so she happily told Yang Luoqi and Lan Xan. "What's an aunt?" Yang Luoqi asked curiously. Before she could answer, the knowledgeable Nan Zhaoyu interrupted. "It's Daddy's little sister. You don't even know this." Yes, just like Wang Xiyun is Wang Shijuan's little sister. She could only follow behind and give examples. After hearing her name, Wang Xiyun ran over in confusion. She was also a chubby little girl and had a similar figure as Lan Xan. She looked at Shi cutely and said, Shi, are you looking for me?" "No." After Cici explained for a while, Wang Xiyun ran back to her brother in disappointment and continued to play her own game. Nan Zhaoyu, on the other hand, looked at Wang Xiyun and Wang Shijuan enviously. He turned around and said to Shi, "I also want to have a little sister like Wang Shijuan." Although Wang Shijuan and Wang Xiyun were in the same class, they weren't twins. Wang Shijuan was 1 year older than Wang Xiyun. However, their parents wanted the siblings to take care of each other, so they asked the teacher to arrange for them to be together. Therefore, Wang Xiyun was half a year younger than Shi and the others. She looked a little silly and cute. "You can ask your parents to give you a little sister," Chen Shiyun said proudly. "My dad said that my mom is going to have a baby. I'm going to have a little brother or sister soon." This wasn't the first time Chen Shiyun had mentioned this. She had always been very proud of herself and felt that there would soon be someone to share her father's bad temper with. Weren't the so-called little brothers and sisters the legendary scapegoats? Unknowingly, their conversation had gone off topic. Lan Xan pouted and said unhappily, "I don't want a younger brother or sister, I want an older brother." "But my mother said I can't have a brother." "Why?" Shi asked curiously. Shi, you're so stupid. We're all older brothers and sisters. Of course, we can only have younger siblings. Nan Zhaoyu explained. "Alright then, but I also like younger brothers or sisters." She expressed to her friends. Murphy was a little out of sorts at work today. Murphy. The director's call brought her back to reality. The director actually wanted to scold her, but seeing how beautiful Murphy was, he couldn't bring himself to scold her. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he said, "Murphy, didn't you hear what I said? I'm telling you about the positioning during the shoot." Murphy hurriedly apologized. "I'm sorry, I was thinking about something else just now." "Could you please say it again? You have to be more serious. Your record needs to be completed on New Year's Day next year. If you don't finish filming now, you won't be able to make it in time." The director couldn't help but complain. After Murphy finished filming her scenes, Mo Shaoan couldn't help but poke the distracted Murphy and asked, "Sis, what's wrong with you today? You're so distracted. Did you quarrel with brother-in-law last night?" "No." Murphy waved her hand and told Mo Shaoan about Yang Yi's sister coming. "What's the big deal? As your sister, I've never seen brother-in-law nervous. Besides, we'll deal with whatever comes our way. You still have brother-in-law to back you up. Besides, are you afraid of a 19-year-old girl?" Mo Shaoan curled her lips. "I'm not afraid. I'm worried. I'm worried that she doesn't like me, Murphy explained. Mo Shawan pressed Murphy's shoulder and calmed her down. She smiled and said, Sis, you're worried. How can it be so complicated? Didn't brother-in-law say that his family is from the countryside? His sister must have not seen much of the world. When she sees a big star like you, she must be very happy. Don't talk about identity. I always feel uneasy about this. Can you give me some advice? It's the first time we meet. What gift should I give Yong Hwan? Murphy pushed Mo Shawan and asked for help. In the absence of the male lead, Du Yuan Lei still insisted on filming for a few days. But today, she also began to be distracted. Obviously, she was not in the right state. Wang Chao couldn't watch the filming anymore. He took the initiative to stop and let Du Yuan Lei calm down first. Do you know what happened? When Guazi was drinking water, Qin Wen came over and whispered to him mysteriously. After getting along with each other for a few days, Qin Wen and Guazi became familiar with each other. Although she was a famous star student, her temper was not arrogant at all. Moreover, she admired Guazi's acting skills. From time to time, she would point out the problems that Guazi would have because he had not been trained by the class. What happened? Sister Wan, don't keep me in suspense. Hurry up and say it. Guazi laughed. It said that Tang Kai Tai abandoned his job. Qin Wen whispered in Guazi's ear. Can you guess the reason? Abandoned his job? That's troublesome. Guazi looked at Du Yuan Lei, who was in a daze, with some worry. Did he find a better choice? That's only one of the reasons. Let me tell you, this matter is also related to you. Qin Wen kept him in suspense, making him feel uncomfortable. What does it have to do with me? Guazi was a little baffled. It's because your acting is too good. After that surnamed Tang saw your acting skills, he didn't have any confidence in himself. He's worried that he would be suppressed by you after filming this movie. He's still quite self-aware. Qin Wen snorted. Guazi frowned and said in puzzlement, It can't be, right? Sister Qin Wen, how did you know about such a private matter? Qin Wen said with a smile, Because when I left yesterday, I just happened to overhear the conversation between Director Du and Tang Kai Tai. However, you can't tell the director about this. I won't. I'm a person who can keep secrets. Guazi quickly waved his hand. Anyway, Tang Kai Tai complained for a while. He said that the weight of the male lead in the script wasn't enough. He wanted Director Du to change the script for him and change the final ending of the male and female lead from a tragedy to a comedy so that they can finally be together. Qin Wen curled her lips and said, You also know that the script written by Director Du wants to portray the inner struggle of the female lead after the death of her ex-boyfriend. She wants to use a tragedy to reflect the complexity of love. Why would she change the script so easily? Then Tang Kai Tai said that if the script wasn't changed, it would be fine. If you want him to come back, you have to be replaced. You have to change to a fatty who doesn't know how to act. A green leaf to a red flower. He won't let the green leaf steal the red flower's limelight. Qin Wen said. Guazi was stunned. He was a little shocked. Don't worry. Qin Wen saw that she had scared him. She covered her mouth and laughed. Director Du is a very upright person. She scolded Tang Kai Tai on the spot and told him to get lost. Then, she called that person and asked him to help find a new male lead. To be honest, I think you should be the male lead. I especially like to act with you. Qin Wen was still comforting Guazi. However, Guazi wasn't listening to her. He looked at Du Yuan Lei with a touched expression. Although Du Yuan Lei's attitude was very clear and Guazi had already given up the idea of pursuing her, Guazi felt that Du Yuan Lei was still very kind to him as a friend. He also liked this kind of friend who was principled in doing things. However, how could it be so easy to change the male lead? Not only would they have to choose a new actor, but it would also delay the filming of the movie for a long time. They might not be able to find a suitable actor. Moreover, if that was the case, the previous videos would be scrapped. Tang Kai Tai had a lot of scenes. This guy just patted his butt and gave up the responsibility. However, he didn't know that he had completely disrupted other people's plans. Du Yuan Lei probably didn't have enough budget to reshoot, right? Chapter 289. Du Yuan Lei did not let everyone wait for too long. In the afternoon, she announced the news of Tang Kai-tai quitting the role of the male lead. She lowered her arrogant head and sincerely apologized to everyone. "It's my fault. I didn't consider it thoroughly. I invited an irresponsible actor like Tang Kai-tai to play the male lead and delayed everyone's time. Because we have to reshoot a lot of scenes, the budget of the crew is not enough. We need to seek sponsorship and recruit a new male lead. We need to stop filming for a period of time." Du Yuan Lei could not hide her sadness very well and told everyone with difficulty that they might have to wait until next year to start filming again. It seems that director Du paid for the film herself. Did she sign a contract with the actors? This Tang Kai-tai is too deceptive. Qin Wen also felt compassionate. She muttered to Guazi, "I don't care what happens. As long as I have time, I will definitely help her finish filming this movie. Xiao Gua, you won't refuse again and again, right?" Guazi said with some excitement. "How is that possible? This is my first film as the male lead. Cough, although I'm only the second male lead, I have a lot of screen time." "Hee, okay. Actually, I also like to act with you. It would be great if you were the male lead. I'm afraid that the new male lead's acting skills will be as bad as Tang Kai-tai's." Qin Wen smiled and said, "All right, I remember that you also like director Du. You even sang for her at the freshman party. Well, no matter what, you won't run away." Guazi did not care about her. When they were about to disperse, he went to Du Yuan Lei. "Senior Du, can I ask how much money you still need for this movie? If it's not much, within 200,000 or 300,000 yuan, I can still sponsor you." Guazi gritted his teeth and said to Du Yuan Lei, "Don't worry, I just want to help you and make this movie go smoothly. I'm not doing anything else." Guazi wanted to use his pocket money and his savings from the New Year's money to invest in Du Yuan Lei. Du Yuan Lei's eyes flashed with a trace of emotion. She hesitated and said, "We don't need that much. This is just a low-budget movie. I only invested a few 100,000 yuan in it. Now, we need about 30,000 yuan. Are you really going to invest in me?" Seeing that there was new hope, Du Yuan Lei nervously asked, "If you want to invest, what are your requirements?" Although Guazi had just said that he simply wanted to help her, Du Yuan Lei couldn't help but ask. In the entertainment industry, there were many cases where investors interfered with the director's filming. Guazi smiled awkwardly and made a suggestion that could not be considered a request. "Senior Du, it doesn't matter if you agree or not. I will still invest in you, but the decision is in your hands." "What suggestion?" Du Yuan Lei calmed down. "Actually, I also think that there is a conflict between the male lead and the second male lead." Guazi said, also, but Du Yuan Lei didn't probe further. He said sincerely, "The second male lead's image isn't any worse than the male lead's, so it's bound to give people the feeling that there's no distinction between the two." Du Yuan Lei waited for him to finish before she frowned and said, "But the real lead of my movie is Su Shesher. She's the biggest contradiction." "That's right. Su Shesher's entanglement in love and her unswerving loyalty to the dead Guang is the theme that Senior Du wants to portray. But since we're talking about this, I have a small question. Isn't the theme expressed a little too heavy?" Guazi said, "Guang is already dead, but Su Shesher still wants to be loyal to him. Although it looks good, it's very likely that people will criticize her and think that she's conveying inappropriate feudal ideas." Du Yuan Lei felt that the script that she had painstakingly written was being criticized by Guazi and felt a little embarrassed. But after a while, Du Yuan Lei sighed, "You're right. If you look at it from the perspective of an ordinary audience, the problems that you've mentioned are real. My scriptwriter's ability is still terrible. I want to express everything that I want to, so there's no distinction between the main and the secondary. It doesn't matter. While the male lead hasn't been found yet, you should polish your script. Guazi advised. I don't have any other inspiration. Perhaps I'm really not suitable to be a scriptwriter. I should just obediently act in a script written by someone else. Du Yuanlei sighed. Why don't I find an awesome person for you to consult? I'm not bragging about his ability to write stories, but he's one of a kind in the world. Guazi bragged. Furthermore, he's also a scriptwriter. The last time I went to him, he was already a scriptwriter, and his writing was pretty good. Look for him and get some inspiration. Ah, there's such a person? Let's give it a try then. Du Yuanlei could only give it a try. The person that Guazi bragged about as the one of a kind in the world was now holding the script that he had written and came to the kindergarten to check it out. Ugly duckling? Mr. Mu flipped open Yang Yi's script and read it with interest. Narrator. The countryside is so beautiful. In summer, the sunflowers are golden, and the rice seedlings are green. These narrations would naturally be read by Mr. Mu, Mr. Shen, or Mr. Kai. The children only needed to act and remember their lines. Mr. Mu read the story and dialogue in the script, and was gradually attracted to Ugly Duckling. Different from the original, Yang Yi's version had added a lot of dialogue. Through the discussions of other ducks and animals, Ugly Duckling's difficult situation was vividly reflected. Sigh, thank God. I'm so ugly now. Even hounds don't want to bite me. After reading Ugly Duckling's monologue, Mr. Mu couldn't help but feel sad for Ugly Duckling's plight. Although Yang Yi's dialogue was very simple, the plot was very heart-wrenching. Fortunately, Ugly Duckling eventually became a white swan, and all the repressed emotions were released. Mr. Mu couldn't help but exclaim, "Great!" Yang Yi couldn't help but smile. He was in a very good mood. This script is pretty good. The story is simple, and the principles are also very profound. It wants the children to know that as long as they have dreams and pursue them relentlessly, good things will definitely come. I think after the children perform, there's a high chance that they'll be able to get first place, Mr. Mu said to Yang Yi. Yang Yi nodded slightly. He didn't expose him. Actually, Ugly Duckling can become a swan because it was originally hatched from a swan's egg. Mr. Mu asked, Yangxi's father, do you need to arrange a good role for Yangxi? For example, Ugly Duckling who becomes a white swan. Shi is so beautiful. She's very suitable for the role of a white swan. Yang Yi was taken aback. He hadn't thought of going through the back door, but Mr. Mu had suggested it. He didn't want to do that, but his concern made him confused. For a moment, he wanted to agree because he also wanted Shi to perform in front of his parents. But wouldn't it be bad to go through the back door? Wouldn't it be a loss if he left a bad experience for Shi? Yang Yi hesitated, but he still shook his head firmly. No need. Let the children choose the roles they want. There's no need to deliberately arrange anything for Shi. Chapter 290. Although Yang Yi declined, he didn't expect that Shi would become the main character in the end without any external interference. However, it wasn't the white swan, but the ugly duckling before the transformation. It was also a coincidence that the other children despised the role of the ugly duckling because it had the word ugly in it. They were unwilling to play it. Lan Xian, who was kind and willing to play it, and Mr. Mu also thought that she was quite suitable, couldn't memorize so many lines. Mr. Mu had no choice but to give up on Lan Xian. In the end, Shi, who had a strong sense of responsibility, stood up and conquered Mr. Mu with her excellent memory. She was successfully selected for the role of the ugly duckling. Of course, this was all in the future. Now that Yang Yi had handed the script to Mr. Mu, the subsequent arrangements and rehearsals were naturally in charge of the kindergarten's teachers. Yang Yi wouldn't participate. He didn't know how to teach, and he didn't have the patience to guide the naughty children in rehearsals. However, Yang Yi didn't want to be a hands-off boss. He took the initiative to undertake the children's costumes. From the design to the production, Yang Yi did it alone. Didn't Lan Xian's father say that he wanted to sponsor at the parent-teacher conference? Mr. Mu said, I'll give him a call. Can you discuss it? Yang-yi couldn't help laughing and said, "There's no need to trouble him with such a small matter, right? I can still afford the clothes." Lan Zhao Kai had been very busy recently, and Yang-yi knew that. After his parent-teacher conference with Yang-yi, he went back and thought about it more and more. He found a professional consulting company to help him do a complete business survey to see the current development of internet companies. He also communicated with Yang-yi about this matter and said that he wanted to test the water. He set up a venture capital company in advance and wanted to use a few hundred million yuan to test the water. Yang-yi had also thought of asking Lan Zhao Kai to invest in Sahara Online Mall, but he felt that it was not a good idea. After all, he had shares in Sahara. If he brought it up, it would make Lan Zhao Kai suspect that he was in cahoots with someone to cheat him of his money. It would cause a rift in their pure friendship. That would not be good. Not only himself, but Yang-yi also didn't want Shi to lose a good friend like Lan Xian. Therefore, even though Lan Zhao Kai was a very capital investor, Yang-yi still didn't consider introducing him to Fu Jun. Yang Huan got on the train in a hurry. In Yang-yi's hometown, in the countryside, although they also felt that it was very glorious to be admitted to a university, they did not pay as much attention to it as the families in the city. After all, there were many ways to go about farming, working, and so on. They did not have to study. Therefore, when Yang Huan made up her mind to go out to work, although her family was against it, they did not object very strongly. In the end, they could not change her decision. Also, instead of sending Yang Huan to work with some girls in the neighboring town in Guangdong province and painting her face all day long, it would be better for her to go to Yang-yi. With her big brother taking care of her, there should be no big problem, right? Yang Huan left as soon as she said she would. After calling Yang-yi yesterday, Yang Huan started to pack her clothes. Yang Qing had to take Yang Huan to the city to take the train in butt-face tractor the next day. Yang Qing, who was used to being thrifty, didn't want to spend money on the phone bill. Therefore, he did not call Yang-yi before. However, as the second brother, he was generous enough to buy a sleeper ticket for Yang Huan and sent her to the train. After sending her to the train, he called Yang-yi from a public telephone booth. Yang Huan will arrive at noon tomorrow? Yang-yi was shocked when he received Yang Qing's call. He thought he could wait for a few more days. He didn't expect his sister to come so soon. Yang-yi, who was in a panic, started to move quickly. He didn't care about other things, but he had to clean up a bedroom for Yang Huan. Yang-yi was so busy that he didn't have time to listen to Shi's kindergarten story. He didn't have time to watch the episode of Jixin interview with Murphy. He also didn't have time to think about Shi's question about having a younger brother or sister. You will have one in the future. Don't worry. Yang-yi rubbed his daughter's head. He turned on the TV and changed the channel for her to watch cartoons. Then, he went into the bedroom prepared for Yang Huan and started to clean it. Murphy came back. When she heard the news, she complained again, "Why didn't you tell me earlier? She's coming tomorrow. I didn't prepare anything. I didn't know she would come just like that." Yang-yi, that idiot, didn't call in advance. Yang-yi complained. Murphy didn't have time to deal with Yang-yi. She called Mo Xiaowan and asked Mo Xiaowan to help her adjust her schedule so that she could spare the whole day for Yang-yi tomorrow. Luckily, they were mainly shooting the MV. Murphy didn't have many scenes. She could ask the director to adjust it and shoot other people's scenes first. As for the recording studio, it didn't matter if Murphy didn't go tomorrow. The recording of the 12 songs had been completed. Jin Yingming could do the follow-up work independently. Yang-yi didn't understand. He kindly advised, "If you are busy with work, you can come back tomorrow night and see her. She's just my sister. She's not a national leader. You don't have to bother so many people." Murphy rolled her eyes at him and said, "Because she's your sister, I have to pay more attention to her. I don't even want to talk to other people." She couldn't explain it to Yang-yi. She went into the dressing room. Because Murphy moved a lot of clothes from the Binhai area, Yang-yi prepared a room for her as a dressing room. Anyway, there were many rooms. She could do whatever she wanted. Murphy began to worry about what to wear to pick up her sister-in-law tomorrow. The next morning, it was the weekend. Guazii didn't have classes. He and Du Yuanlei agreed to go to the coffee shop to find Yang Yi. Because Yang Yi was in the shop or upstairs, Guazii was confident that he didn't call Yang Yi in advance. As a result, when he came to the coffee shop with Du Yuanlei, he only saw Ding Xiang and a few customers. Yang Yi and she were nowhere to be seen. "Where's brother Yang? Didn't he come today?" Guazii asked Ding Xiang embarrassedly. It would be embarrassing in front of Du Yuanlei if he made a mistake. Ding Xiang looked at him and Du Yuanlei meaningfully. Her expression didn't change. She said, "Brother Yang won't come today. He said that he's going to the station to pick up someone. Brother Yang's sister is coming." Brother Yang's sister? Guazii didn't know about it. He had been busy filming for the past 2 days. "Are you talking about the boss of this shop? The very tall boss?" Du Yuanlei asked curiously. She remembered that she had seen Yang Yi before. It was when she first met Guazii. However, Guazii was too conspicuous. She didn't have a deep impression of Yang Yi. "Yes, he's brother Yang," Guazii said apologetically. "I'm really sorry to have made you come here for nothing. What does it matter? If I can't see him this time, I'll come again next time." Du Yuanlei didn't care. She was prepared to visit him 3 times. "I'll treat you to a cup of coffee. You've worked hard." Okay." In fact, whether Guazii agreed or refused, it was the same. Du Yuanlei was already taking out the money. Her question was not a question, and she was not asking for his opinion. Du Yuanlei bought 2 cups of coffee and left with one for herself. However, Guazii stayed. Although it was a pity, knowing that Yang Yi's sister would come at noon, Guazii was interested. He wanted to see what his sister looked like. Chapter 291. "Mom, why isn't Auntie here yet?" Outside the Zhongqing railway station, across the busy street, Yang Yi's overlord was parked in the parking lot of the park. She and Murphy were sitting inside. The little girl was restless. She stood on the seat and looked out of the window, asking questions from time to time. Soon. Mo Fei herself was also a little restless. In this cold winter, fine beads of sweat oozed out of her forehead. She could only comfort the little girl verbally. Yang Yi was waiting on the platform. He looked at the train slowly entering the station through the guardrail. It should be this train. Yang Yi was still a little nervous, but when he saw the car coming, he suddenly calmed down. There was no fluctuation in his heart. Just like in his previous life, his performance was much better than usual. As the passengers alighted from the train, the platform became noisy. Yang Yi stood there quietly, as if he was isolated from the world. He was the only calm scenery on the platform. But he still looked at the passing crowd. "Big brother!" A joyful cry pierced through the noisy crowd and drilled into Yang Yi's ears. A few men were pushed aside, and a girl with a big braid wearing a thick cotton-padded coat and carrying a snakeskin bag entered Yang Yi's sight. She was full of heroic spirit, pretty and bright, and her face was full of surprise. She waved her hand vigorously at Yang Yi. Indeed, the taller one was, the bigger the target. No matter how sharp Yang Yi's eyes were, Yang Huan noticed him earlier than him. Yang Yi smiled and waved at his sister. He went up and took Yang Huan's luggage. The big snakeskin bag was heavy. Luckily, it was Yang Huan. Other girls probably couldn't carry it. "Brother." Yang Huan jumped around in front of Yang Yi. She was almost 1.7 meters tall, but she was still as naughty as before. "Second brother didn't want to call you in advance. I was so worried when I got on the train. I was afraid that you wouldn't come to pick me up." "Why would I?" Yang Yi smiled and rubbed Yang Huan's head. It was the same action as he remembered. However, Yang Huan's braided hair was not as comfortable as Shi's. "I'll buy you a cell phone later. You can call me any time." "Really? Brother, you're so nice." Young Huan was surprised and said excitedly, "I've been wanting a cell phone for a long time. I study in the county, and many of my classmates have one. But I didn't dare to ask second brother for one. He didn't even buy one for himself." Yang Yi sighed in his heart. He said gently, "It's okay. You'll have one. You, Qing, and Mom and Dad." Yang Yi led her out of the station. As he walked, he said, "Didn't I tell you that you don't have to bring too many things with you? You even brought a woven bag." "I didn't want to bring one either. But Mom was worried that you wouldn't be able to eat or sleep well outside, so she asked me to bring you a bunch of local products." Anqing's Maojian, Gastrodia elata, a few bags of dried tofu, a bag of fragrant lotus root. Yang Huan counted with her fingers. She really sounded like Yang Huan's mother. Yang Yi was touched, but he didn't know what to say. He just walked in silence. When they were about to walk out of the station, Yang Yi suddenly said to Yang Huan, "Huan, I have something to tell you today. You have to be prepared." "Are you surprised?" Yang Huan jumped around Yang Yi happily. She even walked in front of Yang Yi and walked backwards. "Look, there are steps. Don't fall." Yang Yi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He pulled her and said vaguely, "You'll know when you see it later. You'll definitely be surprised, but you'll have to judge whether you're happy or not." After crossing the road, they arrived at the place where Tyrannical Wolf was parked. Yang Yi opened the trunk and put Yang Huan's luggage inside. Yang Huan stared at the car, dumbfounded. She could tell that it was expensive just by looking at its appearance. She exclaimed, "Brother, you bought a car?" Seeing Yang Yi nod, she wasn't suspicious, but surprised. "Wow. Brother, you're amazing. You even have a car. No wonder you told me it was a surprise." That's not what I meant. Get in the car first." Yang Yi opened the door of the front passenger seat and let Yang Huan get in. Yang Huan was still a little nervous when she got in the car. She carefully stepped on the mattress and climbed up using the leather seat. She was in an awkward position, but she was worried that she would dirty her brother's car. Just as she climbed up and sat down on the seat, before she could adjust her position and close the door, she looked up and saw two pairs of eyes, one big and one small, looking at her from the back seat. "Ah. Sorry. Yang Huan was shocked. She apologized and shouted, "Brother, we got in the wrong car. This isn't your car." Yang Yi got up from the driver's seat. He closed the door and said, "What nonsense are you talking about? Close the door first." "Are you auntie?" She's anticipation overcame her fear of strangers. She whispered to the woman in front of her, "Auntie." Yang Huan was dumbfounded. She had forgotten to close the door. "Hello, I'm Murphy." Murphy also reacted. She said awkwardly, "It's our first time meeting." "Nice to meet you." In her hurry, she had forgotten to introduce herself. Yang Yi reached out to help Yang Huan close the door. Then he looked at Yang Huan and said, "This is what I wanted to tell you. Let me introduce you. This is Murphy, my girlfriend and future wife. You can call her sister-in-law. This is she, my daughter and your niece." It was indeed a big surprise. Yang Huan was still in a state of shock. She had yet to close her mouth due to shock. It wasn't a big deal to suddenly have a sister-in-law. Although Murphy was so beautiful that Yang Huan couldn't help but feel ashamed, having a niece was a big deal. Yang Huan and she looked at each other. The girl was also sizing her up. Yang Huan lost her composure. This niece seemed to be 4 or 5 years old. Yang Huan swallowed and looked at Yang Yi. "Your niece?" "Of course." Yang Yi smiled. "There's a complicated story behind this. I'll tell you about it when we get back." Fortunately, Yang Huan wasn't a complicated person. There was nothing to think about. Since her brother said so, then so be it. Besides, she had a niece and a beautiful sister-in-law. Yang Huan felt that she should be happy. "Sorry, I was a bit surprised." Yang Huan calmed down and shook Murphy's hand with a smile. She said sweetly, Nice to meet you, sister-in-law. Seeing Yang Huan's kindness, Murphy was relieved. She smiled and nodded at Yang Huan. Nice to meet you, Yang Huan. Me too. Me too. She said unhappily. She pouted and said, I've been waiting for Auntie for so many days. The little girl was like a very good lubricant, immediately easing the somewhat awkward atmosphere by quite a bit. Yang Huan immediately fell in love with the cute girl. She reached out her hand with a smile. How could I forget you? What's your name again? I'm Shi. Auntie, what's your name? Shi took Yang Huan's hand happily. Shi. That's a nice name. I'm Yang Huan. Of course, you can call me Auntie too. Yang Huan said happily. She really felt that the new identity of Auntie was good. Chapter 292. Yang Huan's eyes dotted around as Tyrannical drove steadily on the road. From time to time, she would steal a few glances at Murphy through the rear-view mirror. Murphy, who was as beautiful as a fairy, gave her a sense of unreality. How could such a legendary beauty be associated with her brother? Just like the phoenix perching on the phoenix tree. How could there be a phoenix in the remote mountain village of their hometown? Murphy, this name sounds familiar, Yang Huan muttered to herself. However, she still couldn't recall where she had heard it from. She didn't think in that direction and thought that she had remembered it wrongly. Mom, Auntie is peeping at us. Murphy was the one who was nervous, not Shi. The little girl was sitting in the safety seat, but she had been looking at her auntie for a long time. She noticed her auntie's little movements and called her out directly. Shi, be polite. Murphy gently educated her daughter. Yang Huan, who was exposed, was a little embarrassed. She smiled embarrassedly and said, No, it's just that you are too beautiful. I couldn't help but take a few more glances. It's not Shi's fault. It's okay. You can look if you want, Murphy quickly said. Thank you, Auntie. Yang Huan wasn't reserved. She turned her head and smiled at Murphy. She also reached out to tease Shi. Shi, how old are you? I'm 4. She giggled and shrunk her neck. Then she imitated Yang Huan and asked, How about you, Auntie? How old are you? Me. I'm 19. Auntie is old, Yang Huan said with a smile. In fact, Yang Huan liked Shi very much. She suddenly became an auntie. The sense of responsibility that came from her blood made her want to spoil this little girl. Moreover, Shi was so cute. Auntie, are you hot? She couldn't help asking, Why are you wearing such thick clothes? Although it was winter, Yang Yi turned on the heater function of the air conditioner in the car. Ordinary cars used engine coolant as a heat source, but Tyrant had installed a heating system that only a few high-end cars had. After turning it on, the inside of the car was indeed much warmer than the outside. Naturally, Yang Huan was sweating from the heat. However, she was too embarrassed to take off her jacket for fear that she would embarrass her brother. If she hadn't mentioned it, Murphy and Yang Yi wouldn't have noticed it. Yang Yi turned to look at Yang Huan and said with a smile, Huan, take off your coat. You can put it on later. Mo Fei also took the initiative to say, Yang Huan, take it off. I'll put it behind you. Yang Huan didn't hesitate. She unbuckled her seat belt, took off her coat, and handed it to Murphy. Murphy took it and folded it for Yang Huan before putting it on the empty back seat. Yang Huan had been watching Mo Fei. It seemed that she was watching Mo Fei's movements, but in fact, what she was really paying attention to was Mo Fei's expression. To her relief, Mo Fei didn't show any disdain for her, who looked very old-fashioned, cotton-padded jacket. Seeing Murphy fold the jacket for her seriously, Yang Huan's impression of Murphy gradually improved. Murphy turned around and saw Yang Huan's grateful eyes. She was stunned for a moment, then smiled and said, Yang Huan, your jacket may be a little hot in Jiang City. It's not so cold in Jiang City in winter. I'll take you to buy some clothes later. Okay. Yang Huan said happily, "By the way, sister-in-law, you can call me Huan Huan like my brother. I'm used to my family calling me Huan Huan. It's awkward to call me Yang Huan." This was the first time Yang Huan had offered Murphy a real olive branch. "Family." Murphy smiled happily. "Yes, Huan Huan." "Auntie, should I call you Huan Huan too?" She interrupted, confused. "You should call me Auntie. I like it when she calls me Auntie." Yang Huan made a face at she. The two girls who liked to laugh laughed at each other. Time passed quickly with laughter on the way. Soon, Tyrannical Wolf drove back to Jiang City Media University. Yang Yi drove past the coffee shop and was about to park in the backyard. He pointed at the coffee shop that was still open and said, "This is my coffee shop. We live upstairs." A coffee shop. Yang Huan was surprised. She had studied in a county high school, so she wasn't ignorant. She was surprised that her brother could open such a shop. Wasn't it a little too artistic? In Yang Huan's memory, Yang Yi wasn't an artistic person. Of course, she quickly came up with the answer. She couldn't help but look at Murphy again. Yang Yi got out of the car and opened the door. Murphy handed the cotton-padded jacket to Yang Huan. Then, she unfastened Shi's seatbelt and pulled her out of the back seat. Yang Huan had experience this time. She unfastened the seatbelt and opened the door smoothly. It was still a little cold outside the car. Yang Huan put on the cotton-padded jacket. She didn't need to button it up. She just left it open, revealing her curvaceous body. Just then, a voice came from the back. "Brother Yang, you're so mean. Our sister is coming over to play. You didn't even tell us. Sister Ding Xiang and I have been waiting for a long time. You're finally back. Where's our sister?" Yang Huan turned around and saw a man and a woman walking around the glass window of the coffee shop toward them. The woman was wearing a uniform and looked friendly, but the other was a chubby man who was only a little taller than her and had a young face. "Who's this?" Yang Huan muttered in her heart. She felt that there were enough surprises today. She didn't want two more surprises. Yang Yi smiled when he saw Ding Xiang and Guazi. He didn't plan to explain. Instead, he introduced them. "Huan Huan, these two are my good friends. This is Ding Xiang. She's from Xiangxi. She's a sophomore at the university we just passed. She's helping out in the coffee shop. This is Guazi. He's a freshman." Seeing that Guazi's eyes were shining, Yang Yi purposely introduced him. Then, he introduced Yang Huan. "This is my sister. Her name is Yang Huan. She's a sophomore. Ding Xiang, show her around the university and let her know about it." "Sure." Ding Xiang nodded and smiled at Yang Huan. Yang Yi had told her about Yang Huan's situation before. Therefore, she wasn't surprised that Yang Huan skipped class and came out to play. Guazi was much more enthusiastic. Yang Huan wasn't like Yang Yi. She was much prettier and had a good figure. Even if she wasn't an 8 out of 10 beauty, she was still a 9 out of 10 beauty. "Brother Yang, don't worry. I promise I'll take good care of our sister." Guazi patted his chest and said with a smile. Hey. Let's be clear. Who's your sister?" Yang Huan patted his shoulder and snorted. "You're a freshman. Are you 18? Well, I'm 17. Guazi immediately lost his confidence. Yang Huan smiled proudly. "Then don't call me sister. I'm 19. I'm much older than you. Quick, respectfully call me big sister." "Ah." Guazi thought that he could be a big brother now that a high school student was here. He didn't expect that she was older than him. His happy expression immediately dropped. Chapter 293. How is it possible that she's already 19 when she's only in her second year of high school? Guazi couldn't help but mumble. Yang Yi opened the door and turned his head, ready to drive the car in. When he heard Guazi's question, he faintly smiled and said, "My little sister started school late. Coupled with the fact that she repeated a grade in primary school, she's indeed 19 years old now. Brother, are you exposing my shortcomings again? Yang Huan said angrily. Guazi felt like the sky was falling down. He said in annoyance, I thought there was finally someone younger than me. I didn't expect that I'm still the youngest. Good boy. Yang Huan turned around and said to Guazi with a smile. Ding Xiang and Murphy couldn't help but laugh when they saw Guazi's defeated expression. Guazi was usually the most talkative. Finally, there was someone who could control him. However, to everyone's surprise, Cici walked up and pulled Guazi's hand. She said innocently, Uncle Gua, don't be sad. I'm the youngest. I'm only 4 years old. This time, everyone laughed. At noon, Yang Yi was preparing lunch in the kitchen. Murphy held Yang Huan's hand and chatted in the living room. Although Murphy wasn't good at chatting, it was her sister-in-law's first time here. She had to be friendly. However, she wasn't good at it after all. As they chatted, Yang Huan, who had become familiar with the topic, gradually took the initiative. Sister-in-law, how did you meet my brother? Yang Huan had been hiding a question in her heart. She didn't have a chance to ask Yang Yi alone, but it was uncomfortable to keep it in her heart. Therefore, she asked indirectly. Murphy pursed her lips and said, Actually, it started 5 years ago. At that time, Yang Yi was still working as a chauffeur in the capital. Yang Huan remembered that her brother had worked in the capital for a while after he retired. However, he left the capital for some unknown reason. Because of this, Yang Huan was sad for a while. She wanted to go to the capital with her brother. The imperial palace and the Great Wall in the capital were very beautiful. There was once when I was in danger, and he happened to be there, so he saved me. Murphy didn't want to go into too much detail. On the other hand, Yang Huan nodded with satisfaction and smiled. So it's a hero saving a beauty. Just as she was about to ask some questions that brushed past the topic and get to the biggest question in her heart, Cici, who was watching TV with the remote control, suddenly seemed to have discovered a new world. She happily turned her head and shouted, Mama, Mama, look, you're on TV. Yang Huan and Murphy looked over and saw Zhixin's interview on the TV. It was a replay of yesterday's show. When Yang Huan saw Murphy appear on TV, she was a little confused at first. But suddenly, a thought flashed through her mind. She remembered why the name Murphy was so familiar. I came across the ocean to see you, Yang Huan exclaimed. She said, Sister-in-law, are you the singer who sang this song? Although Yang Huan was born in a village, she didn't live in a vacuum. Moreover, she was still studying in a county high school. Her classmates had been humming this song almost every day for the last month. Some of the boys had even pasted Murphy's picture on their desks. Yang Huan didn't pay much attention to the singer's appearance, but she still remembered the name. Hearing her aunt's exclamation, she said proudly, My mom sings really well. Murphy, on the other hand, didn't feel proud. She even nodded shyly. Yang Huan's expression was a little strange. There was surprise, worry, and some other indescribable emotions. Needless to say, the worry was similar to before. Murphy was already unbelievably beautiful, and now she was a superstar. Yang Huan didn't know if her brother could handle her. Although Yang Yi and Murphy had a child, there were plenty of celebrities in the entertainment industry who divorced or even cheated on their children. However, she still couldn't help but give Yang Yi a thumbs up in her heart. He saved a beauty and brought her back. Brother, you're really good at acting. On the TV, Luo Xian was asking Mo Fei about Mu Xiang. Mu Xiang wrote 12 songs for you, and it is said that almost all of them are excellent songs. Such an excellent songwriter actually refuses to appear in front of the media. Can you give a simple evaluation of him? Murphy, who was on the TV, was stunned. She then said shyly, I think Mu Xiang is a talented man. He doesn't want to appear in front of the media because he has his own career, right? Murphy revealed a little, but she was still a little shy when she praised Yang Yi. She felt that she was praising herself. After you sang, Coming Across the Ocean to See You, Many of your fans said that Mu Xiang is the man who understands you the best. What do you think of that? Luo Xian was still trying to stir up trouble. Murphy was very straightforward. She had already merged Yang Yi and Mu Xiang together. She nodded subconsciously. That's right. Oh. The audience felt that they had heard something incredible. They all cheered. Only then did Mo Fei realize that she had said before that Mu Xiang's song was not written for her. Now that she had said that, it would cause misunderstandings. She quickly explained, "What I mean is that Mr. Mu Xiang knows me very well in music. Although he didn't write the song for me, it's very suitable for me to sing. That's why he gave it to me." She didn't know why, but when Mo Fei saw it on TV, she felt that her explanation was a little too obvious. Murphy subconsciously glanced at Yang Huan, who was watching the TV. She explained to her softly, "Mu Xiang is actually Yang Yi." Huh? Yang Huan was confused. Murphy told her that Yang Yi had written the song for her. She also explained that Yang Yi had used this name because he didn't want to show his face in public. Wait, my brother knows how to write songs? Yang Huan wasn't interested in the latter part. However, Murphy had truly confused her. Yeah, he knows how to. And he's very good at it. He's good at composing songs and playing many instruments. Murphy said with admiration. But I've never seen him write a song before. Yang Huan was confused. That's because Yang Yi signed a confidentiality agreement when he was in the army. There were many things that he couldn't tell his family. The confidentiality period has just passed, Murphy explained to Yang Huan. Yang Huan was enlightened. Although she still found it hard to believe, she could accept the reason. After all, ever since Yang Yi joined the army, he didn't spend much time at home. When he was in the army, he rarely came back home. After he retired, even when he went home for the spring festival, he came and went in a hurry. If it weren't for Yang Huan's lively nature and the fact that she had been sticking to her brother, Yang Yi, since she was young, she might have been estranged from Yang Yi. "Sister-in-law, I have a question for you. I hope you don't mind." Yang Huan felt that her brother was getting more and more mysterious. If she didn't ask the question now, she might really die of boredom. "Go ahead. I won't mind." Murphy's heart skipped a beat. She thought that she had done something wrong. Yang Huan pointed at Shi, who was watching the TV attentively. She lowered her voice and said, "Isn't Shi already 4 years old? My brother didn't tell his family about Shi when he came home. Why did he hide it from his family? No matter what the reason is, he should at least tell his family that he's pregnant. You don't know how worried my parents are about my brother's marriage. They've been hoping that they can have a grandson soon. If my brother goes home alone during the spring festival, my family will probably arrange a blind date for him, just like my second brother." Yang Huan complained. Chapter 294. Hearing Yang Huan's question, Murphy could not help but feel nervous. This was what she was most worried about. Although she was prepared to be honest, she did not know if Yang Huan could accept it. However, since they were talking about this, she could not talk about it in front of Shi. Murphy pulled Yang Huan to the dining room. After hesitating for a while, she whispered to her, "Actually, this is all my fault. When I gave birth to Shi, I was abroad, so I did not think about contacting Yang Yi. Of course, I did not have Yang Yi's contact information either." Murphy told Yang Huan about how she had stayed abroad until Shi was 3 years old. Then, she told her about how she met Yang Yi again after she came back, and how they gradually developed their current relationship. Murphy bit her lower lip and looked at Yang Huan. "So, all these years, Yang Yi did not deliberately hide it from you. It was because he did not know that he had a child. So, don't blame him. If you want to blame someone, blame me." "What nonsense are you talking about? How could I blame you? This is my fault. If I had thought about it carefully and did not ask you to leave, you would not have to work so hard to raise Shi alone abroad." Yang Yi had just come out with 2 plates of cooked dishes. When he heard what Murphy said, he immediately disagreed. How could you let a woman take the blame for something like this? Wait, brother, sister-in-law, how did you two get together back then? Why don't you even have his contact information? Hearing Murphy's statement, Yang Huan vaguely felt that she had missed something. At that time, Yang Yi looked embarrassed. It was that time when Yang Yi saved me. We did that. Murphy was anxious to explain, but she blushed as she spoke. Well, that refers to having sex. Yang Yi tried to explain, but Murphy secretly kicked him. Something like that. The next day, we separated and decided not to see each other again. We also decided not to mention it again. And then she got pregnant. How could Yang Huan not understand this? She was already 19 years old, not a primary school student. She had a strange look on her face as she tried to hold back her laughter. Murphy nodded gently. Fine. So that's the reason. Yang Yi and Murphy let out a sigh of relief when they saw that Yang Huan seemed to have let it go. However, no one knew what Yang Huan was thinking. She was secretly happy and felt sorry for Yang Yi. This big brother is really in his 30s. He doesn't make a name for himself, but when he does, he amazes everyone. Not only did he drive a big car, but he also found a celebrity wife. What's even more amazing is that the hero saves the damsel in distress, sleeps with her, and even has a child with her. This plot is just like a novel. It was not just a novel. Yang Huan even felt that the CEO novels and sweet doting novels that the girls in her class read were not as bizarre and exciting as this. Of course, she was still excited for Yang Yi. Her big brother had turned the tables. Seeing that Yang Huan had accepted the truth, Murphy felt relieved. She decided to work harder and buy more things for her sister-in-law. In Mo Xiaojuan's words, she wanted to bribe her sister-in-law so that she could build a relationship with Yang Yi's parents through her. Yang Yi also had something to say to Yang Huan in private. After lunch, Yang Huan rushed to help wash the dishes. Yang Yi stood at the door and watched her busy in the kitchen. He hesitated for a moment before he said, Huan, do you think that I'm too stingy and that I don't give enough money to the family? Yang Huan shook her head. She turned around and smiled brightly at Yang Yi. Of course not. I know that you have your difficulties. Didn't you give a lot of money to the family too? Mom and Dad saved up the money for you. Half of it will be used to find a wife for second brother, and the other half will be kept for you. God is so pitiful. I have no rights as a daughter. They don't even want to give me money as a dowry. Sob sob. Yang Huan pretended to be pitiful and rubbed his eyes from afar. Yang Yi was baffled and asked, You know what difficulties I'm facing? You don't have to leave the money for me. Spend it all. The house needs to be renovated. I'll send more money home in the future. Of course, you have a share. Big brother. We're a family. Don't be so courteous. Yang Huan turned around and looked outside. Then, she pulled Yang Yi into the kitchen and closed the door. She looked up at Yang Yi, who was confused, and scolded him softly. Did sister-in-law give you the money? You don't have to think that just because you don't have money at home, you can give sister-in-law's money to us. You haven't married sister-in-law yet. Don't let her look down on us. Even if you marry her, you can't take the money. Although we're a little poor, we still need to have a backbone. Yang Yi understood now. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. So this girl thought that he was a freeloader. No wonder she said that she understood his difficulties. If it was some other misunderstanding, Yang Yi would have gone with the flow. However, this was a matter of a man's pride. Yang Yi pulled a long face and said, Who told you that sister-in-law gave me the money? Can't your brother earn some money? I earned this money in the second half of the year. Big brother, you can earn hundreds of thousands in half a year? Yang Huan didn't believe him. It's not just a few 100,000. You have to add another zero behind it. Yang Yi actually said that he didn't want to scare his sister. He brought Yang Huan to the study, took out the 3 books that he had already sold and handed them to Yang Huan. Big brother, you wrote these books? Young Huan was a little confused when she saw the name on the books. Yes. At first, I didn't know that I could earn so much money, so I didn't dare to give too much to my family. I gave it slowly, Yang Yi said. However, Young Huan didn't continue to doubt him. Like a little psychic, she held the books and said with a smile, "Big brother, you have to thank sister-in-law even more. I didn't know you were so good before. Luckily, you met sister-in-law. You've changed your life." Yang Yi looked at Yang Huan's superstitious look. His mouth moved, but he didn't refute her. He nodded silently. If it was a misunderstanding, then so be it. As long as she believed it. Yang Huan's strange way of thinking aside, after Murphy's new show was aired on Shanghai TV yesterday, her new single was released at the same time. The influence of Jixin interview was obviously a level higher than fast music, fast music. It had only been a day, but the first dream had already been sung. The melody of the song was beautiful, but compared to Coming Across the Sea to See You, the mood of the song was still inferior. However, to some music critics' surprise, the title song that they thought did not live up to its name showed a strong momentum right from the start. Especially among young people, this catchy song full of positive energy was highly sought after. In just one day, First Dream had rushed into the top 50 of the sales chart. And this was the result before Mo Fei started participating in the ranking show. Of course, this had a lot to do with the popularity of Coming Across the Sea to See You, and Qianmei's hard work in promoting it. However, this couldn't cover up the widespread praise it received on the internet. This is a heartwarming song. It gave me the courage to work hard in a difficult situation. A young man who claimed to have a bad job after graduating was raised high. However, this was just the beginning. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.